Hello. I don't know why. I don't know why that song is on my mind. Hello, everyone. Hi. Oof. Featuring even more box, apparently. If I move that box over there, it's fine. It's just carpet anyway. This is my project for, it was supposed to be for today, but then I slept. So maybe it'll be my project for tomorrow. If there's one thing I've learned in the past month, it is how important rest is because I wasn't like hibernating on my off days. And like after a month of working this schedule, it took me out. So it's very important. Everybody would tell me, they were like, on the first day off, I sleep for like 16 hours. But then, like, you wake up rested. Well, you get some rest for a few days, then you go back. I'll figure out my own body. That's fine. Anyway, before I wanted to do a Celtic cross reading, which I didn't really do, and I don't really want to. I did what I wanted. I mean, my thing on the Celtic cross, it was the cross of the main card, so like position 2. But instead of doing that, I did like what's helping and what's hindering, and that scratched the itch. So before that, I wanted to just pull one card and go stream of consciousness for however long. Now, when I'm typing and when I'm writing readings, it's different. Apparently, I've also been, I guess there's this interesting thing. This is going to be a whatever. There's going to be a lot of reading in this because I'm going to use the mystical creature oracle cards. I'm going to pull a mythical creature and then I'm going to create a spread around it and then we're going to pull it. So, oof, that's a lot. That's too much. I just had a thought. I was like, what if I like created a spread and then I offered to do it as personals if anyone was interested in it? But now I'm like, oof. Like one person, yeah. For more than 3 people, oof. There's been this thing. There have been a few things. The post shadow, the Venus retrograde post shadow has been interesting. Venus retrograde has been interesting. Like in the pre shadow, it felt like business as normal for me. Well, the pre shadow was building up to the retrograde because in the retrograde, I was like, the bar is set impossibly high, and I'm fine with that because I love where I am and I am not about to jeopardize it. Now that Venus is direct, like the first few days of Venus being direct was like softening back into the state that my Venus was in before the retrograde, which is like, open. But also striking a balance because in the Venus retrograde, there were very, very, very valid things that came up that, and I've talked about it at least a few times on here. Partially, like it signals where I'm going, but also it's like it shows where I've been. And I feel like I do a decent enough job at looking at where I want to go, looking at where I am, but also taking into consideration where I was. So I don't have to be too hard on myself about things related to the past because I was where I was at that moment. Or I try to. Anyway, so one day I saw a whole bunch of like, I'm an INFJ, that's my MBTI, my Myers-Briggs type index or whatever. And it was like the shadow side of the INFJ and like 7 signs, you're an INFJ, whatever. And they talked about the INFJ door slam. And I was like, oof, I'm not necessarily an INFJ sniper shot type of person. Like I can be, especially to my brothers, I guess, growing up. But, we tortured each other. But with other people, I prefer the door slam because it's like, it's not even worth it. at that point. It's not that it isn't worth it, but it's like there's no point in being unnecessarily mean or harsh when the door's just going to close anyway. It's like, okay, figure it out. I'm going. Or not, sometimes we're just incompatible, and that's fine. Not everyone is for everyone. So it opened up with a little bit of that. Like, let me tell you about you. And I was like, okay, I own these things. I can acknowledge these things, and I can also choose to move differently in the future, especially if I want. No, I can choose to move differently because I've reached that point. The Naga came out in reverse. The whole deck was in reverse. Interesting. Now that I pull this card, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. It's fine. It was in reverse though, so it's not going to count. And I'm still talking. Well, let's see what's the Naga about. So anyway, yeah, that was it. This post retrograde. Wealth, money, opportunity, hidden treasure, lucky chance, serendipity, growth, abundance, paradise, luxury, beauty, gifts, opulence, and privilege. Sounds like a real Venusian energy there. Accurate. So yeah, that's been the post. And I guess it's been like my Chiron is in Leo, and I've been healing my Chiron more purposefully / less avoidably since 2020. And following my North Node in Sagittarius. I guess that's the thing too. I have a grand fire trine in my chart between my Venus, Chiron, and North Node. And so while Venus has been transiting Leo, she's been trining my natal Venus. So of course that would bring like all of my stuff. But yeah, I think, it was a lot of like, I feel like the part about understanding where I was and the circumstances in my life was kind of me. Well, that's always the case, isn't it? This is why I'm talking about this. I was like, why? But yeah, the actual retrograde it started with me really valuing my space and like the peace. Yeah. I mean, it's easy. Well, I guess I would say it's easy to be at peace when you live alone, but that isn't necessarily always the case for everyone. But like the peace, and I remember when my grandma was like, "Don't you get lonely by yourself?" I'm like, "No, I don't." Excuse me. And I just moved out a few months ago, so the novelty hasn't. Yeah. I mean, I popped another Mucinex right before I started this live, so I can already feel it like starting to drain, and I just woke up like an hour ago, so so I'm probably going to be draining. But thanks for asking. How are you, Holly? But yeah, it was a lot of like really valuing where I am and not being willing to compromise it or to allow anything or anyone to take, like, the being taken from is like that part is over. It's like, but now maybe that's it. Now that the post shadow of the Venus retrograde is happening, it's like I'm opening to the addition. And I'm also experiencing in ways like I had a dream that the dream spurred my realization. I had a dream that I was in the car with my mom, and she was parking the car like on it was like the edge of a cliff, but it wasn't a huge drop. So it was like at the edge, but it was a clean 90-degree and then water. And like she was like, we get closer and closer and closer to the edge. And I'm like, what are you doing? You can stop the car. Like, you can stop the car now. And she drove over. She went over the edge. And so, like, in the time before I hit the water, I'm like, what? I'm like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, do I hold my breath? And I was like, not yet, right? I'm going to watch the water. And then, like, right before I hit it, that's when I'm going to hold my breath. And I'm going to do this. Like, first, I'm going to try to open the door. I guess if I was thinking about it, I could have opened the door, because if I'm going to hit the water anyway, I could have hit the water outside of the car. I didn't think about that. So anyway, I was thinking about my breath and like not drowning. So I hold my breath right before we hit the water, and the car is like filling up slowly. I was like, oh, okay, well. And I'm trying to open the door and the windows, and they don't work. So I'm like, well, I'm going to pull out my phone and I'm going to call for help. And then I'm going to keep trying, because at the very least, it's like either way, I'm going to need for somebody to be here. And this way, like, they can be on their way when like I'm trying to get out. I can. I mean, technically, yes, I'm not the best, but also I don't do it super often. Um, excuse me. So I'm like, and then I don't have a signal on my phone, and I'm like, and my mom is just like not doing anything. I'm like, I'm over here, I'm in the passenger side freaking out, and she just not doing anything. And then it was like the last thing I remember in that phase is like checking my phone and it like not having the signal. And then I can't remember if I woke up or if I just like was somewhere else in the dream. But my mom was like, she was like, that already happened. I was like, why were you just like, like, what were you like, what is happening? And she was like, it already happened. Like, and then I told my journey buddy, or I sent her a voice note when I woke up. And then after like a day of whatever, and then after thinking about it for a little bit, I was like, oh, well, maybe it's related to like all of this Venus retrograde stuff for me and my emotional waters, and how like I'm so hesitant to like open back up or do whatever. But that part where like my mom was like, it's already happened, it's like, it's almost like I've already sort of figured it out. And so from there, with that mindset, I was like, oh, so like it's a soft allowance at this point. So I fell into my soft allowance. And then I don't know if I started, no, I think I started, I fell into that soft allowance in the post retrograde. And then it's like I started noticing things, or things started happening. And I'm like, okay, I can be in my soft allowance. This is fine. Um, but I was watching something, probably anime yesterday. I don't remember what anime or what was happening in particular. Um, but it was just like I owe it to myself to allow and to receive all of the beautiful things that are coming to me. Like I owe it to myself to not be a piece of resistance, to not struggle and to not fight and to not keep at arm's length or farther the things I don't want in life. Like I owe it to myself to like put myself out there, and I owe it to myself to be more like to make better choices and decisions when it comes to like health and stuff like that. Like I owe it to myself. Um, in a really soft way. Like, and I say soft because isn't like it doesn't feel super demanding, at least now. Because in the startup, as things are slowly ramping up, it doesn't feel super demanding. Now when the stuff actually starts like hitting the fan, that's when it'll be like, whoa. But the foundation of like you owe it to yourself to be open to this, you owe it to yourself to pursue this, you owe it to yourself to, if you get an idea of like, hey, I should do this, to go and do it. See, this is like when I pick a word for a year before the year starts, before it's required of me, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what I mean by soft. And not to say that it's going to be difficult later, because it might not be. um, but yeah, that was last night. It was just like, you owe it to yourself to do this. I was like, you know what? You're right. And I was like, okay. All right. So anyway, that's been my Venus retrograde journey. Mercury retrograde happened during this Venus one. I feel like, was that the day that Mercury retrograded? Or the day before? I think it was in Mercury's pre-shadow where I went live with Rob. And there were a whole bunch of technical issues, kind of because I used the program in a way that I haven't before. And then I was like, oh, it's only capturing video. It's not capturing sound. That's why nobody can hear Rob. It took me like 20 minutes to figure it out. And then he told me that the program can do stuff that I wish that it could do. And this whole time it was able to do it. I just didn't know how to do it. And he was like, what? You just like hold Alt and you drag the window. I was like, what? I spent a good at least year on my channel in the corner of my screen because I couldn't figure out how to crop the window. What are you talking about? And then, like, I didn't think of, so in the audio board on the program, my microphone was maxed. But I didn't think of going into my actual settings for the microphone and like increasing the volume on that until a week, 2 weeks later. And it's not like I thought about it that whole time, but one day it was just like, oh, I could have increased the volume in the settings on my input. Um, but besides that, I mean, maybe there's been a little bit of clarity. But I don't know. Mercury's like, and then Jupiter just went retrograde. I don't know. The personal planets are, after Mercury goes direct, the personal planets will be direct. And maybe that's why so many of the messages have been like, it's going to be very important for you to know who you are. Because there's something about that clarity of self that will make navigating something easier. I don't know. All right, let's build a spread. One card. I keep seeing the fairy. I saw the fairy in the Four of Wands. Now the Spencer's Tarot cards that's my usual spread building deck. But since there are mythical creatures in that one, I was like, I can just use this one. There we go. Somebody flipped over. Who is it? It's the goblin. Ooh, not the goblin. I actually have. I can't get to my description box. Actually, I think I can. Yep, it's right here. There's a spread that I've already built that has like a garden goblin in the background. It's this one, the headless horseman. Why is it a garden goblin? I don't know, but it is. Wait, hold up. No. Well, this makes sense for that. Anyway, so I am going to need this. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of reading and apparently a lot of talking. I'll timestamp when I start pulling cards for anybody that wants to go there. I need a sticky note. I need a sticky note. A sticky note. But yeah, so I had to dream about liquid water. And then the next, I was like, okay. Because it threw me for a loop. But then I was like, I was talking about it with my journey buddy, and I was like, oh, maybe it's because I'm feeling so much internal resistance to like softening back up because I know where I want to go right now. And I appreciate what I have right now. And I'm not as open to anything and everything as I was in the past. Like the openness of the past allowed me to flow into the position that I am in now. And now that I am here, I want to continue to see it forward. And I'm not willing to compromise what I have for foolishness. Like I had my foolish period, you know? I'm just like over it. So let's see. There are multiple sections, and we are going to look at all of them. Oh, snap. Hold up. Um, but because of that, I was just like, yeah, no, like for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't really open to love because I'm like, I'm good. If I'm single for the rest of my life, I think I'll be all right. Um, so we got keywords. So yeah, when of course when it came time to soften back up, and when I could feel, because it started with a few dreams, I could feel like that softening happening. I was like, no, 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 no. And then I had the dream with my mom. Like my mom had to be behind the wheel, I guess, for me to be like, okay, it's fine if I slowly drown in this ocean of emotion. I mean, like in reality, throughout the course of that phase of the dream, there wasn't even that much water in the car. Like it was below the windows. It was low enough for me to pull my phone out of my pocket. Like honestly, there could have not been any water in the car. We were just like in the water. But I was freaking out, of course. So it always seems worse than it is when you're freaking out sometimes. Troublemaker, treachery, and pettiness. Oof. Oof. Wow. Okay, this might just be this might be a personal reading because I can't be petty. Maybe not. We'll see. Well, I'll try to decentralize. If it don't resonate, don't take it. Obviously. Um, I feel like I haven't done a self reading in a minute. So I'm going through. This is the keywords: working with mythical creatures. I've never actually read through this book. Mythical creatures as totems is chapter 1. So this one, mythical creature totems based on occupation, social role, or activity. So occupation, social role, activity. Um, but yeah, after I got into like criminals, thieves, bullies, internet trolls, criminals, thieves, bullies, internet trolls. Um, and then based on dominant personality traits, dominant personality traits. So after I figured out, like, when she was like, it's already happened, like, you're not in any danger, like, you weren't in danger. That's why I wasn't. But like, it's like, even if someone isn't in danger, like, shouldn't you not put them in situations like that? It's like at no point were you in any danger. So it was ethically okay for me to mentally torment and anguish, or to mentally torment and cause you much anguish. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I agree with that. Hold up. But yeah, when she was like, oh, you were fine. Um, hold up. Oh. Um, that's when I was like, oh, okay, like, I'm not gonna die. So I can afford to breathe a little. So the dominant personality traits of the goblin: troublemakers, liars, mean people, untrustworthy individuals, and creeps. That's chapter. No, we're still in chapter 1. Oh, there's the Naga. Gamblers, lucky people, those with a strong affinity for shiny objects. The magpies. Once you identify your totem or totems, okay. I don't think this one. Chapter 2 is meditations for self empowerment. Yeah, it's not in this one. Chapter 3, dealing with monsters. Creatures that are purely negative. Apparently, the goblin is purely negative. What's this? Dealing with the goblin. Dealing with goblin. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of reading in this one. Rudeness, dishonesty, treachery, offensive behavior, meanness, perversion, and any habits that characteristically makes others uncomfortable or table. The goblin does not abide by what is right and does not respect common decency. Any person who has been called a creep could be a goblin. The goblin serves as a catch-all for most bad thoughts and behaviors. I'll say catch-all. So this is like real general. Creatures that bring negative qualities in addition to positive ones. Oh, goblin ain't got none of that. What to do with monsters? These ugly creatures serve a purpose. Oftentimes we know that a problem is present, yet we do not always know how to put a finger on it, let alone banish it from our lives. Monsters put a face on our problems. They embody personal weakness in the form of bad habits and negative emotions. If the monster's presence is knowingly tolerated or even invited, it can transform the self into something truly ugly and wretched. This may happen when an individual adamantly denies that they have a problem. It may even happen when individuals become overly egotistical, trying to cultivate something to make themselves stronger, and they end up cultivating something evil. In a sense, the person becomes a monster. There is a reason why to be called a monster is an insult. Nobody likes having monsters around. An arrogant fool may think himself to be powerful, but he is poisoning others around him, making enemies and weakening his own sense of judgment. Many people also believe that breeding such negativity causes bad karma, which will ultimately harm the self. I'm just like picking paragraphs out of this. Indeed, negative energy is messy. This is the reason why these rituals are helpful in the first place, and also why you should take precautions first before doing them. Understand that when a negative thought form is let loose, it can interfere with the positivity in your life or with another person who is sensitive to that kind of energy. For this reason, perform these workings in a designated ritual space and do not mix them with lighthearted events. Be sure to mentally prepare yourself for battle. Clear your mind and don your spiritual armor. It is also a good idea to cleanse the room before and after using prayer incense or smudged sage. Do something pleasant afterward. So, ritual 1 is battling the monster. Ritual 2 is destroying or banishing the monster. And it might just be those two. How to use the cards in divination, chapter 4. I think that's, oh, no, this is an example. Oh, Rachel is a goblin. No! Oh, gosh, no. No. I'm shook. 1 second. I need to grab something. I got to clear some mucus. Oof. I left the door cracked because it is warm. It gets warm in here. Like the lights just emit so much heat. This will be a vessel for disembodied mucus. TMI. When it's empty, of course. Wow. Wow. No! Wow. This is wild. Was this a 33-minute and 40-second just to get me to this paragraph? Wow. No comment. Oof. What was I talking about? So we're not gonna use the goblin. I feel like that last. So there's a in the chapter 4, how to use the cards in divination. There is this 8-card spread that looks like the Big Dipper. And on number 3, I saw Goblin. On number 2, because the Goblin card came out. And then that was the paragraph. Um, so I guess it's because I mentioned it like when I first started working, everything was one way. And I was working days. So I was with the same people. Then when I went to nights, it was almost like at the start of when I went to nights, I noticed that like it's just like things have shifted at work. And I made a comment to one of my coworkers Friday. I was like, it feels like everything has been off lately. Like the harmony and the flow and the almost lightheartedness that was there before is like now when I'm there with me and my people, it's still there. But like outside of me and my interactions, like I've noticed that things aren't as like smooth as they used to be. And I made a comment, and one of the girls was like, "Yeah, everything sort of shifted when some stuff shifted." And that's why I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, no." Oof. Anyway, I'm glad that I don't have to actually do that. I mean, I would have done it. And then the chimera is here. So it's like Rachel isn't just a goblin. Like, and then there's the goblin. The chimera and the goblin. It's just like people go through stuff. Like we all live life. Life happens to all of us. And some of us get brought experiences that are terrible. Some of us get brought experiences that aren't even salvageable. You know what I mean? Where the only bright side of it might be that it's over. You know what I mean? Like that's it. The bright side could be that hopefully we don't end up in another like it afterwards. But as far as that chapter, it was all garbage, unsalvageable garbage. Um, and I don't know, it's like I knew the person before life happened to them. And then I was brought back in this almost staggered way until we had a little overlap um, to them after life happened. And so it's like the person that I knew is completely different than the person that is. Like life happened. And were there some things that shocked me? Yes, very much so. Yes. Um, but also, like, with what happened to that person, it's like, oh my gosh. So, like, if you're not the same person that you were before life happened to you, like, I don't hold anything against anybody. Not in that way. But yeah, anyway. And also, it was one of those things where it's like not completely black and white. So, like, valid points, of course, being made. Cerberus and the basilisk. Okay. Excuse me. But anyway, after I had that dream, and I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna die. I was like, okay, I'm a slide back into this soft acceptance, and then stuff started. I started noticing things as things started shifting, because it was also partnered or paired with, but it wasn't a complete shift. It's like there were things that were building up in my experience. And then when I had that dream and I reached the point of soft acceptance, it's almost like it dropped, like it was birthed. But like the contractions and the labor pangs and stuff like that, like they were happening. Like there were ripples before it came in. It didn't just pop out of nowhere. But now that it is, and I'm in this space of soft acceptance, now that I have reached this, like I owe it to myself to at least be open to that which is additive in nature. I was like, okay. Then I had another dream involving frozen water. So I went from drowning or not drowning. I went from not drowning in a car that I thought I was going to drown in to like a snowball fight. I was like, okay. And then after the snowball fight, I was like, okay, we can soften a little bit more. And now I'm like, wow, like I see this for what it is. I'm open to it. And like there are things that like the experience is so vast. Like for me personally, like I'll notice things like in conversation, like how if there's a certain theme of conversation and like work and friends and family, like people that I know, if I'm like seeing a similar theme, a conversation, I'm like, okay, I catch this. If it's happening in dreams, if it's like stuff that I'm watching, games that I'm playing, or there's another category. Like I notice it. Um, like I can be a little oblivious sometimes, but I'm not that oblivious. You know what I mean? And so I can't even see my face. I got a lavender sticky note in front of it. There we go. And so I'm noticing those things. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. Soft acceptance. And then I'm like, wow, like, is this what I asked for? It's very much so, not necessarily, yeah, it's less than ideal. Less than ideal isn't the right way to phrase it. It is not through a medium that I would have always been the most open to. My resistances have dropped. And that's the thing. I like that's been what's my word? Expedition is my word this year. That's been a thing like end of February into like March, April. It took me a while to get that one. Was like it's not necessarily for me to pursue something, it's for me to not be resistant to it. Things will find us through the path of least resistance. And so the less resistant we are, the more pathways that are open. And here again, now that like Venus, we're in the post retrograde shadow / prograde phase of Venus again. It's just like less resistance to be open to more. And I owe it to myself to not introduce resistance or to create blockages where there doesn't need to be any. I'm like, okay, fine. No, if if we were still in the heart of that Venus retrograde, that's when the pettiness would have come out. I'm like, I don't care. You know what? I think I'll be good alone. I think I could be a rock. I think I could be an island. And I'd be okay with it. And I was like, okay, now, let's not be extreme. That's not necessary. All right, anyway. Goodness. I almost want to like it wouldn't have been so jarring if like the name wasn't the same. No, I'm like, because I don't like to like, use real names or whatever. I'm just like, wow. But also again, it's just like life is life, but it's sad. I don't know of another way. Like, because can we be disappointed in life or with life? Sure, I guess. It's not, because I wouldn't use the word disappointing because I'm not disappointed in the person. It's just so disheartening, maybe, that what happened in life happened to them, you know? So, say la vie, what are you going to do? Anyway, all right. So, next mythical creature, because apparently I'm just talking today. If I pull cards, I'll timestamp it. If you don't see a timestamp, then assume the whole video is like this. Um, all right. Oh, it's two. It's two. I feel like I haven't. Ooh, hold up. I can feel the mucus building up. 1 second. Hello, Codes of Harmony. How are you doing today? I got two cards that came out. Just in case we get another monster. Ooh, see, I was gonna say just in case we get another monster, I'll take both cards. But what if it's two monsters? Well, if it's two monsters, then they can fight each other. Which monster is the monster that wins? It's the monster that we feed. It could be two non-monsters. I'm gonna take both of them. I was gonna ask Google, but I don't have to have Google and Siri make my choices and decisions for me. Oof. Well, the bottom of the deck is the Hydra. So if it's two monsters, it's almost like either way, it's two sides of the same coin. Two different heads connected to the same body type of energy. All right. So a little bit of audience participation. Well, that's not the battling of monsters that I had in mind, but yes. Well, no, they weren't monsters. Um, you know, they were painted. Well, I mean, Shrek did. Anyway, so do I pull the left one or the left one? I'm making choices and decisions today, apparently. The jackalope. Okay. All right. All right. We got some rabbit. We got some deer. We got some abundance. We also got some claws on this thing. Jackalope is like, I ain't your helpless rabbit. So the jackalope is one head of this, and Barometz is the other. This is interesting. Look at how similar in color these are. I'm gonna have to open a Word document because a sticky note ain't gonna help me with two. So let's see. It's infamous in Arizona. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say I know someone in Arizona, but they're not in Arizona anymore. That person is now on the east side of the US rather than the west side. Wow. Okay, this is doable. So I think I'm gonna want a table. Yes, I'm gonna want a table. So this I will merge and center. Where is my merge and center? Here we go, merge cells. So this is going to be, hold up, wait. Undo. So the left one is the jackalope. The right one is barometers. There we go. I do want to center everything because it provides the mind peace. Okay. So it's going to be a lot of typing still, going to be a lot of reading. Uh, yeah, see, you see how the fear of two monsters almost stopped me from getting to whatever these are? We're facing fears, we're making choices and decisions. So we got keywords. Keywords for the jackalope. See, it's fine. I don't have to inconvenience myself. I'm just gonna do it. I was gonna be like, oh, I'll do the jackalope first and then barometers because jackalope came out first, and this is alphabetical. It's like I don't have to inconvenience myself. Gentleness, innocence, and vulnerability is our barometers. Gentleness, innocence, vulnerability is barometers. I could share this window with you. Sure, why not? I was gonna be like, oh no, like you don't want to see a word, whatever. Why not? I say, why not? So we get our. Give me 1 second, just so you know. Should be this one. Yay! And now that I know how to crop a window, shout out to Rob. Shout out to Rob Kenobi for being awesome and for doing all of the awesome things that he is doing. Yay! We don't have to capture the cursor. Window title must match. There we go. No, 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 no. This is fine. This is fine. There you go. I'm back. Shout out to Rob for imparting some of his techno wizardry upon me. All right. Just so you can keep track, I guess, as I'm doing all of this. So those are the keywords for the barometers. Keywords for the jackalope are irony, humor, and mischief. Irony, humor, mischief. I never did finish the spiral, did I? It's fine. So those are our key words. Next is working with the mythical creatures. So first is going to be like the social activity and oh wait, that's totems. I wish there were a way. Wherever there is a desire, there exists the fulfillment of that desire. We just have to be clever enough sometimes to find it. So, occupation, social role, activity. For baromets, we have infants and young children. For jackalope, we have comedians and entertainers. Infants and young children probably love entertainers and comedians, right? This is interesting. We'll see. Based on dominant personality traits. So we're going to have to insert below. Boom. And then we'll do this. Dominant personality traits. Personality traits. Innocent. Hold up. Wait a second. See. Glad I caught it though. Jackalope is already causing mischief. My negligence is the mischief of the jackalope. I wasn't being negligent. It was the jackalope. So baromets, because I'm doing baromets first. The extremely innocent. So not only innocent, extremely innocent, gentle, clingy, or dependent. Oh, seems like we get into the shadow a little bit. Extremely innocent, gentle, clingy, or dependent. And then we have the jackalope, those with a strong sense of humor, jokers, pranksters, 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 and goofs. Those with a strong sense of humor, jokers, pranksters, and goofs. What am I doing? It's fine. I feel like I say that every time I get on here. What am I doing? Sometimes it works out. A lot of times it seems to, but don't know if we'll necessarily always be so lucky. So now, in the meditations for self-empowerment section, there's a lot here because we're not dealing with monsters this time. So suggested as power animals. This one's going to be kind of big. Recommended use for people, let's see, recommended. Over people who are too aggressive, overly aggressive and demeanor. My brain is like, who are harsh and insensitive, harsh and insensitive. Of a bad habit of lashing out, hurting others, and driving people away, combats the hostile Cerberus, the overbearing Chimera, the uncouthful Goblin, and the cold-hearted Manticore. See that uncouth Goblin? Goodbye. Also, Cerberus came out. And I was like, no. Or Cerberus was at the bottom of the deck when I was shuffling. I wasn't ready, so I was like, anyway. Harsh, insensitive, lashes out, and drives others away. Caution. Do not invoke the Brahmins if you have low self esteem, are highly sensitive, have difficulty standing up for yourself, or have been described as obsequious or clingy. Low self esteem. I'll put an R in there for some reason. Highly sensitive, clingy, or difficult standing up for oneself. The desired qualities: gentleness, softness, approachability. Mantras: I am sweet. I am the sweet little lamb whose softness we all adore. I am soft and gentle. I would never harm a soul. I am one with the Baromettes. I am attached to my friends, family, girlfriend, boyfriend. Insert. Extra suggestion: visualize yourself and others as connected to the same tree or plant as one. They are part of yourself. Love them, love yourself, love all, treat all kindly. And then with our Hydra, many heads, one body. Interesting. I am going to. I can wait. So we'll do the same for the jackalope. Recommended and caution. This is interesting. I feel like the caution is there to avoid the shadow of the Baronets, to avoid like being well. I think the caution is there because it is an energy that can be so impressionable. It's like you don't want to cling to the wrong thing, or you don't want like a negative influence, bad influence type energy, you know. The jackalope isn't even here. What? Is the jackalope a monster? Jackalope might be a monster because I don't see it as in the power animal section. But it's not going to be all negative. It's probably going to be those. Here it is: creatures that bring negative qualities in addition to positive ones. Right? No. The jackalope is just like nowhere. It's not purely negative, and it doesn't bring positive qualities in addition to negative. It's just like not here. I thought these would be in like some category, but I guess it, you know. Hijk. Yeah, here's G. Ends at Griffin and then goes to comma Denu. And there's no J for jackalope, which is fine. You know, we don't need it. How am I going to do a spread off of these is the question. What did that say? It caught my eye, so I'll read it. In the dealing with monsters section, the key to eliminating a monster from your life is to replace it with something positive. If one simply looks within themselves, kills a monster, and then returns to their daily business without doing anything else about it, the monster will come back. This is because the monster is not a foreign invader that can simply be blocked. Instead, it is part of the self. the removal of which leaves an empty hole that needs to be filled with something. Left unchecked, it will only fill up with more negativity. The smart course of action is to fill the void with something that makes you a better person. The previous chapter about power animals provides excellent examples of positive thought forms to fill in this void. I don't know. Complex card readings. Oof, the less cards it is, the more complex in nature. Oh, no, never mind. I just didn't see these. There we go. Wait, where's the simple ones? What creature can help right now? Okay. The cards. Oof. This is going to be a lot. I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna type things as they stand out. Maybe I didn't have to do all that. Well, so here's the actual entry. And I'm going to read the whole thing, apparently. Keywords: gentleness, innocence, naivete, sweetheartedness, kindness, softness, vulnerability, timidity, obsequiousness, dependency, attachment, helplessness, and children. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but it's how we're pronouncing it today. I could ask Google, but we're not doing that. Mythical background, also known as the vegetable lamb or Tartary lamb. The baromet is a lamb that grows on a tree or bush. That's interesting. Lamb that grows on a tree / bush. Ooh, let's do bullets. Right now, we just gather a bunch of information and then we parse it into some kind of spread, I guess. This is what medieval Europeans imagined when they were first introduced to cotton, understanding it to be wool that came from a plant. Cotton understood to be wool. Contrary to popular belief, the cotton shrub Gossypium is not exclusive to the New World. It is also indigenous to parts of Africa and India and therefore was known to Europeans before Columbus. Other wool-bearing plants also exist that may have inspired the baromets. From the Middle East, there is the woolly fern, scientifically known as Kibodium baromets. Anything I'm going to butcher, I'm probably going to butcher, and I'm not going to be like, oof. I might say oof. The oof is the acknowledgement that I'm probably butchering the word. Additionally, there is an Asian fern called Polypodium or Polypodium baromets, whose above ground roots are covered with wool like hair and ooze a red fluid when cut. Believing such a plant animal to actually exist, Europeans speculated about the way the baromets might live. It was supposed that the little lambs began as gourds growing on the ends of stalks. They remained attached to the plant via an umbilical cord throughout their life. Limited by the length of the cord, the lambs were only able to eat grass that grew within immediate reach. Once they ran out of accessible food, they starved and died. The baromets lacked defense from predators, and its meat was reputed to be a delicacy. It was also said that the bones of the baromets were ideal for divination. So, defenseless. And delicacy. Bones for divination. Card meaning: the baromet is by far the gentlest creature in the bestiary. It takes the form of a lamb, a baby sheep, not an adult. Therefore, it may represent an infant or young child. It is the archetype of innocence, something to be protected. It is attached to its parents and dependent on their care. The outside world is mysterious and frightful to it. The baromet's child is completely comfortable in its parents' arms, not yet having developed an independent self identity. Children embody these characteristics the most until the age when they need to be potty trained. After this, they gradually move toward independence. However, excessive sheltering and coddling by parents can prolong development. The appearance of Baromet's card may indicate an adult's perception of a child rather than the child's actual stage in maturation. So, perception versus uh, actual progression. There we go. Progression, progression, progression. Yeah. Just making sure that spell check is working. An adult can also embody the rare myth. Such a person is remarkably sweet natured, sensitive, harmless, and non confrontational. They may have gained a reputation based on these qualities, and other people surely enjoy their company. They are soothing to be around, good at comforting others, and noteworthy in hospitality. Their goodwill is likely to soften hearts and inspire sensitivity in others. If someone is not kind to them, bystanders will probably rush to their aid. Drawing the Baromet's card can also be a message that a more hard hearted individual will benefit from softening up. Of course, lamb-like qualities in an adult are generally not regarded as strengths. The predominant negative aspect of the Baromet is that it is easily exploited. Its gentleness can be seen as weakness, which may trigger impatience or contempt from certain individuals. Fearful of confrontation and lacking any real means of self-defense, the Baromet becomes a target for the unscrupulous. Its air of innocence signifies easy prey, which will attract predators and protectors alike. A Baromet, well, we'll do that one. Attracts predators and protectors. A Baromet sees the good in people, thus it is trusting by nature, naive and gullible. It depends on others to take care of it by warning it of dangers and actively fending off threats on its behalf. At its worst, the Baromet is excessively attached and clingy. It may be that it never learned how to be fully independent in the first place. Over the course of its life, it may have become overly used to receiving care from others and having everything handed to it. Or it could have been emotionally scarred and desperately craving comfort from others. This state is hopefully temporary, but it can become habit if other people continually reinforce the Baromet's dependency. We'll say danger of forming habits of dependency. Oof. After putting a certain number of letters on there, I was just about to put Ian. Um, it's interesting that it concludes with the danger of forming habits of dependency. Well, it just like it's like how the goblin was a catch-all for like bad habits. It's interesting that the Baromet is here. That it's almost like not like a fall person. Scapegoat. Oh, it's a goat. It can be used as a scapegoat by the unscrupulous too. And it's one of those like the Baromet thinks that they're being taken care of or whatever, but in reality, and maybe they're not meant to be a scapegoat the whole time. But when the unscrupulous gets caught, who are they going to shift the blame onto? Baromets. Who's not going to fight it? Baromets. Our baby lamb is a scapegoat. Let's not be scapegoats. Scapegoat popped into my mind the other day. I don't even remember why. Jackalope. So, keywords for the jackalope. Jacker. Joker, absurdity, irony, humor, comic relief, playfulness, mischief, mockery, trickster, exaggeration, tall tales, false rumors, and implausibility. The jackalope comes from tall tales of the American West. Pioneers and woodsmen entertained each other with stories of this and other absurd creatures known collectively as fearsome critters. Fearsome critters. I mean, I feel like a bear mitts would be a fearsome critter. Eve, hey, how you doing? I feel like bear mitts would be fearsome to me. To see like a live lamb attached to like a, a plant. But what is this? I mean, it is absurd. Maybe not necessarily fearsome. Fearsome critters. The jackalope is indeed fearsome, infamous as a mischievous trickster, known to imitate the sound of a human voice to deceive hunters. Imitates human sound to deceive hunters. Not surprisingly, it is virtually impossible to catch. Jackalopes are the hybrid offspring of a jackrabbit and a pronghorn antelope. They can also reproduce on their own, but only during storms that have lightning and hail. Uh, I am. Yeah, I feel like the expectorant is keeping me because the mucus at first, like it was just coming out, but then it was starting to like get sticky, and it was starting to like, you know, f up my sinuses, I guess. But yeah, I'm feeling better. Thank you for asking. I did pop a Mucinex before I started this video, but I've got the proper whatever nearby. Before I started this video an hour and a half ago. I think I'm gonna go to bed tonight, even though I just woke up. It's fine. So that's actually important because a lot of hybrid animals, from my limited knowledge and awareness, a lot of hybrid animals can't self-reproduce. Like a lot of hybrid animals are sterile. Like ligers, the what happens when you breed a lion and a tiger, I'm pretty sure most of them are sterile. Um, but not jackalopes. How do I want to say? But they can only reproduce in a storm with lightning and hail. So that is a huge caveat. A zonkey. What's another one? I can't think of it. I think I've seen a picture of a zonkey. But then it's almost like, well, what's a real zonkey and what's a product of the internet and some technology? Um, Hybrid offspring that can reproduce in lightning and hail. Taverns and hunting lodges sometimes display taxidermic jackalope mounts as a joke. The jackalope may be related to other trickster rabbits of folklore, such as Brer Rabbit, Manabozo, and even Bugs Bunny. Taxidermied as a joke. Taxidermied as a joke. I don't even know if that's anyway. I kind of like. I don't know how I feel about that. Its dead bodies are displayed as a joke. See, that's what people see. A jackalope is a barometz that got tired of being taken for a fool. I'm just playing anyway. The jackalope is not the only horned rabbit in world folklore. In Germany, the Bavarian forests are said to be haunted by a fierce little beast called the Wolpertinger. Oh, the Wolpertinger. This monster looks like a rabbit with antlers, fangs, and wings. In Arabian myth, there is the Al-Miraj, which is a yellow rabbit sporting a single black horn like a unicorn's. The jackalope is no cuddly bunny, but its cousins are decidedly worse. Has decidedly worse cousins. Sideshow Bob. Yes. I was going to make a comment, but then brain. There is a type of Shope papillomavirus that in extreme cases can cause rabbits to develop horn-like growths. Of course, these little monsters are harmless to humans. Interesting. Oh, I didn't even feel it. Are decidedly worse. Both the Whippertinger and the Almirage are man-eaters. These bizarre myths actually have a basis in reality. There's a type of Shope papillomavirus that in extreme cases can cause rabbits to develop horn-like growths. Virus can cause rabbits to develop horns. See, I told you. The baronet tech got tired of being taken for a fool. I think these man eaters. I think that's important because of the hunters that it mentioned earlier. So I wish I could just oh, I can do this. No, maybe I won't. It's fine. Oh, I wanted to do this though. See, I was gonna do this before I moved over, but I was like, no, I'll just do all four of them. But the jackalope doesn't even have a thing. I hope you rest well when you get to bed, though. Catch you before you dip out. So, the jackalope is a lively and comical figure. He is a joker. Whether he provides entertainment as a stand up comic, interjects with an improvised pun, or executes pranks and practical jokes, his sense of humor distinguishes him. He is playful and mischievous and able to make others laugh along with him. He is guaranteed to add a spirited presence to any gathering. If one is looking to have a good time with friends, the jackalope can turn any small group into a party. Morally speaking, the archetype of the jackalope is ambiguous. Ooh, morally ambiguous. The symbolism provides no specification of whether his jokes are harmless or mean spirited, tasteful or offensive. He may be a well intentioned person or an obnoxious jerk, or anything in between. The mythical creature is purported to have a troublesome side, if not a mean streak. In the Old West, it was rumored to sneak up and poke people in the rear end with its horns. Thus, people in the jackalope's presence may find themselves to be the butt of the joke. I feel like that was I feel like that was like a pun, and I found it funny. Thus, people in the jackalope's presence may find themselves to be the butt of the joke. This creature serves first and foremost to amuse himself. Other people provide incentive, but the jokes may be at their expense. If well intentioned, the person who embodies the jackalope is probably seen as immature. He may have many friends, but not everyone will be a fan all the time. In general, the jackalope signifies a lack of seriousness. Let's see. Lack of seriousness. In general, of course. It can be a person, an attitude, or the way one spends his day. It may reflect an opinion that one holds about something, seeing something as laughable and dismissible. The jackalope is the embodiment of silliness and whimsy, which often manifests through absurdity and irony. I like that. Embodiment of silliness and whimsy that manifests as absurdity and silliness. Hold up, wait, irony. As an example of this irony, the jackalope's laughter may be no laughing matter. There is a time and a place for fun and games, but such things are not always constructive. The jackalope may be a person who is goofing off instead of applying the appropriate amount of effort or professionalism. His lack of seriousness can be most unwelcome in some situations, and the archetype's presence can cause real problems. The jackalope also signifies something unlikely or implausible, an idea that is in itself not to be taken seriously. It is a ridiculous creature, the stuff of tall tales and drunkards' delusions. Beware of the message brought by the jackalope. It may be a lie. Otherwise, it may be a twisted or exaggerated version of the truth. It may stand for one big misunderstanding, something that has sent people running off foolishly in the wrong direction. Whenever this happens, the jackalope is laughing. That makes me think of uh, Jan Gantitan or whatever, and the Demon Tarot for some reason. The one that has like the lights on his fingers. It could be the will o wisps. It leads some. It helps some people who are lost find the road, but it just like gets other folks even more lost for some reason. That getting sent in the wrong direction while the jackalope laughs. This is very Loki. Ooh, I wanted to write something down with this. Oh, also signifies something implausible or unlikely. All right, so I am actually going to combine these two. And then, yeah, I'm just going to combine them. Maybe not. Yes, I am. I mean, I could just delete this since it doesn't really apply. Perfect. Okay, so this is what we have to work with. Ooh, goodness. Told you it'd be a lot of reading. So this is a Hydra. So it has the same body. Now the body of both of these is because of the unseriousness of the jackalope. Like both of these feel like childlike or like I guess immature. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. That is what I wanted. So they both share an immaturity and point of attraction for others. Both can cause aversion because of their personality. The baromex because sometimes it's too innocent or overly dependent. The jackalope because it's incapable of being serious when it's time to be. It's almost like there's a lack of appropriateness that causes the aversion. I mean, but that's like Doodle, the what was his name? Sponge Doodle. When he was like, I SpongeBob, you Doodle. When he had the I like that episode. I haven't seen that episode in a long time. I should rewatch it. Oh, I think I pressed the wrong button. Because of their personality and its appropriateness in certain circumstances. Um, Also, they are both herbivorous. Relatives. What else? Both are small animals, small in stature. Yeah, I should have just left this as a bulleted list. And I think that's it. What am I doing with this? It's been an hour and a half. Let's see. So it feels like the interesting part of like the imitates human sound to deceive hunters. So there's almost this, like in general, like let's say if I pulled these cards for a person, um, it's like with the baromets, maybe someone had a baromets part of their life and they realized that they were too impressionable or too gullible. And so they picked up behaviors of someone else, of the people who would take advantage of them. And that's like the imitating hunters of the jackalope. But there's a almost like a caution of like, be mindful that that doesn't become who you are. Because like there's a difference between like taking something on as a defense mechanism, or it's like when we start to lose sight, I guess, where we lose a situational awareness and where we start to exhibit those qualities in situations where it's not appropriate. And it's almost like that's where we can start generating karma. But it's like, it's like you were mean to someone who didn't deserve it, type of energy. Like they were just as innocent. It's like when the baromet becomes the jackalope, but then it becomes the person that caused, it becomes the type of person that caused that baromet to become a jackalope in the first place. It becomes the prey to other baromets. And then it may justify it in like, oh, well, they need to learn to not be so gullible and so trusting and so vulnerable, just like I did. So I'm helping them, I'm teaching them a lesson. It's like, okay, but I'm sure there are other ways to communicate it rather than causing them to become like you. And maybe the people who did it to you were also barometrics at the same. So it creates these like cycles where it doesn't necessarily need to be. Um, but on the other side, it's like if I was reading for someone and Jackalope came out and it was followed up with barometrics, it would almost be like someone who doesn't know how to be serious. Now, that could be someone who's had, I feel like it's easiest when it's a set of fortunate life circumstances or when it's a set of very unfortunate or unfortunate life circumstances, but it feels more polarized. Like it doesn't necessarily feel balanced. Like there were good things that happened and there were not great things that happened. Because if everything's good, it's like there's no risk, there's no sense of like threat. And not that there needs to be one, but it's like it doesn't take anything seriously. It's like, oh, everything will like turn out fine. It always works out. Like it's easiest to be like, oh, my parents will just throw money at it and it'll be fine. Like whatever happens, whatever I mess up, we'll just throw money at it. It'll be fine. But like, it's like there are some problems, there are some things that money can't solve. So, like, let's say, for example, they have a close relationship with someone and they hurt a person or they betray someone's trust or whatever. And like, they would be the type of person to like buy things. And then it's like, but like, depending on what the grievance is, things don't always make up for it. And then they're like, well, like, I don't see what's the issue. Like, I bought you a car, I bought you this, and I bought you that. I buy you everything. Like, why do you like, what's the problem? What's the issue? And it's because like there are non-earthly things that are needed. But on the other side of things, it could be someone who experiences almost in the same way. But instead of it like being things always work out, it's like things never work out. And so they don't really invest any time, energy, or effort into anything, or it's like it's so constantly pessimistic and nihilistic that it's like there's nothing that. So like let's give the same example. And this person is with someone who like cares for them or whatever. And the person like let's say there's something that they do often and they never whatever, and the other person like leaves or the other person talks about leaving or whatever, and it's like, oh well, you were just going to leave anyway. Like why would I do this, why would I do all of these things if you're just going to leave me anyway, type of whatever. It's easiest with relationships, but it also applies to literally every aspect of life. It can be jobs, it can be career, it could be a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like, let's say there's the pessimist that doesn't put any effort into their work. And so it's like they always do the bare minimum, which is fine if that's what that person like wants. But like, let's say that that's a person who, for some reason, desires to like upward mobility in a company. And they're like, I've been at this company for Kirsty. Hi. Hello. Happy belated birthday. Let's say they're like, I've been at this company for 30 years and I haven't had a promotion or whatever. And it's like, because they never do anything. Like they like 30 years of doing the bare minimum. If you get promoted into a higher position where there's more responsibility and you're still doing bare minimum, now that you're higher up, it's almost like that person can be where things go to die. So if it dies all the way at the bottom of the chain, the losses are minimal. But if you move that dead zone higher and higher up, it's like because it's like they become a boss or a manager, and they don't handle or deal with any of the problems that the person that the managees and supervisees or whatever. So they quit. It's like, we're constantly telling the boss this and like that. And like we bring all of these concerns to their attention, but they don't do anything about anything. So we left. And then, but it's like because they've been there, they should like feel entitled to more when they give nothing more. It's like they want more than what they're willing to commit. And then on the other side, let's say that you have someone with connections, but they are morally ambiguous. And so they make questionable business decisions. And they're like, oh, well, we have the best lawyers. We have this. We can pay money. And it's like money doesn't fix a reputation with people. And if you're in a business where like the functioning of your business depends especially on your reputation with your customer base, like if that's the only thing you have that keeps people coming back, it's like the way you treat people and like excellent customer service and compassion and stuff like that, the things that people love. But you get like throw money at it, it doesn't matter. They're going to feel like not valued or not appreciated. And then they take their business elsewhere. Anything can work out to be a negative, but that would be like the jackalope that had a clarifier of barometers where it's like they just don't know any better. They don't know better because they don't know any different. And that's nobody's fault. It's not the fault of the person that they don't know any different than what they've experienced in life. It's like I think I was telling somebody about Inside Out, and they were like, who's the villain who's the villain in Inside Out? And I was like, the villain is life. Like it was life circumstances that had them move. And like, that's it. The villain isn't the parents removing their daughter. The villain isn't sadness for ruining Joy's fun. The villain isn't Joy because she didn't want for Riley to be sad. The villain is life. And Riley has to cope, deal, manage, So I don't know how I'm going to turn this into a split. Like I don't know. I guess I imagined it being. I feel like life has also been incredibly gray lately, if that makes sense. Like it's been morally gray in a lot of ways. But I guess I've seen it coming, or I should have seen it coming. Because I was like people are still people. But the way that everything is working out is like, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty remarkable that even while people are people and while businesses are businesses, that we can still show up for each other in our communities in the way that we show up, in the positive and impactful and meaningful ways that we do. And we still aren't perfect. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. You know what I mean? I feel like what both of these would need is something to mature them, but also something that doesn't bring them out of touch with who they are, right? Like it's amazing that the Burmese is gentle and that it's capable of vulnerability and all of these things. And it's amazing that the jackalope can have a sense of humor and can find the lightness in times of heaviness and stuff like that. But it needs like some complexity. It needs to be rounded out because life situations and circumstances aren't necessarily always one note. It's not always one key. There isn't one thing that's necessarily the solution every single time, 100% of the time. Like we have to be able to flex and fold and bend and accommodate changes and even constancies. Maybe this is it. uh, I don't know. Because I used the Spencer's tarot cards to build spreads, I thought it would be like easy, you know. Good night, Eve. I hope you have a beautiful work day tomorrow and a work week. Hope you have an easy breezy work week. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just to be mindful, to not be the goblin, but to also not be the baronets or the jackalope. Um, and I guess the baronets is interesting because it seems to be the desired state of being for a lot of people. It's like this state of supreme innocence and gentleness and almost, well, yeah, lack of attachment to anything. But it's like there are times in life where we have to play an active role or where we have to have some kind of a presence. And the baromet is a powerful presence and it's a very felt presence, but it isn't necessarily one that it's not one that always changes and moves things, because it can and it does at times. There's just like a lack of, like, rather than it being like immaturity or a lack of seriousness, it feels like a lack of presence. It's not truly present in the moment. It doesn't truly exist in the now. They live in a warped version of reality where things don't need to be taken seriously, where nothing needs to be done. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've been trusting my feelings this whole time. I really wanted to build a spread, but it's fine. Life is the villain today. We go through what we go through, and we do our best with what we have and what's been instilled in us. And our parents, sometimes they do their best, sometimes they do their worst. A lot of times, I guess I would venture to say it's in between. But they do their best with what they have and what's available to them. And sometimes we desire things or we expect things from people that it was never put in them to give. Just like we have our own journey. And I guess that's the interesting thing about blaming the ancestors for everything, or this and that is ancestral trauma, ancestral karma. Like none of it is yours. You are this perfect being that exists in a world of garbage. Um, Again, it's like if all of our ancestors had that exact same mentality and attitude, then it's no wonder why through an ancestral line things never get healed or resolved, or why they never change. Parents trying to instill things in their children that were never instilled in them as children. At what point does it enter the bloodline? At what point do things change? And it's a lot of work and it isn't necessarily easy, but You know what's not going to change it? Like, oh, that's just like ancestral baggage. It's not mine. I wonder how many people have existed on this planet that were determined to be better people than their parents, that ended up becoming their parents because they never really, and it's just like, it's just life, you know? There are things that weren't given to us that we have to figure out how to give to ourselves, or we have to figure out how to incorporate into our lives. And sometimes we meet others that, if we're open enough to their different experience, that we'll realize some things. Like, I had a buddy who had a not great relationship with his mom because his mom is the user of all users. And his wife has a healthier relationship with her mom. And it was through his witnessing their dynamic and relationship, and as he became a part of their family, that he realized that, like, some of the things that were happening on the other side were not okay, and it's not acceptable. But without that, it's just like, oh, that's just mom being mom. And yeah, it is. But like, what if he didn't experience any different, and then he became that kind of father to his child that his mother was to him? Like, he thought it was excusable, or he thought it was a thing that, like, moms just do because the only mother that he has did that to him, and nobody in his family really, like, had her own up to it or called her out on it. Everybody just went along with it. I don't know. It's just like, it's so almost oxymoronic to me that we as individuals, especially in the spiritual community, can manifest desire or demand so much change. But when it comes time to, like, do the real life work to change things, or to navigate and move and make choices and decisions in different ways, it's like, oh, this isn't your work. It's ancestral karma. It's ancestral baggage. It's like, oh, well, why did my ancestors leave it to me to do this and fix that? Like, why am I the chosen one in my family to have to shoulder and burden all this? And it's like, just like your parents and just like their parents and just like the ones that came before them, apparently, you don't have to do it. It fell on you because somehow nobody else did it. And if you want differently, you're going to have to do it. If you want to get paid, you got to clock in. If you want, like, things cost things. And it's like, for all of the sovereignty and for all of the, we are gods and we are creators, it's almost like sometimes there's no work that goes into making a creation physical. Like, it's all energetic, it's all mental, it's all spiritual, it's all done behind closed doors. But when you go out into the world, like, nothing changes, nothing is different. And then we get irritated and frustrated, and we feel carried on a stick and all of this because nothing changes. And it's like, okay, well, at what point, like, if you get tired of cutting up fruits and vegetables, so you get a processor. If you don't use the processor, your fruits and vegetables are, like, literally all you have to do is load them into the thing and press a button. Sometimes, but, like, we still got to do it. And it just, like, it's life. If it wasn't done before we came, and it might fall on us to do it. But that's the way that things get done. And then there's also that, like, just in general, how it's like, it's commonly agreed upon. Generally, I assume that, we leave the world a better place than we found it for our children and for our children's children. But then at the same time, you'll have people who are like, well, it was hard for me. It was difficult for me. It wasn't easy for me. So why should it be better for anybody else? It's just like it's all of these little nuanced things where we fight the progress that we desire, or where we work against the very things that we want to manifest for ourselves. Let alone all the times that we get it and then, like the food processor, we don't even use it or we don't accept it. So we can call life the villain here, but some people have led very villainous lives. Like they've been through circumstances, whether good or bad, on the more polarized sides of things, where it's like it's almost like it's either all red marbles or all blue marbles. And so there's no concept of anything different. Life has predispositioned one to not be able to take things seriously because they've never had to, either because things have always been good and taken care of for them, or because things have always turned out bad and wrong from the beginning. Ooh, it's a good thing I'm just Patrick. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, where, at what point, if someone hasn't experienced anything different, at what point are they to know that there is anything different? And how would one even recognize something as different when it comes in? Now, of course, the answer is your intuition, your discernment. Everyone has it. And I guess that's just the way things are. But I guess we as people can be different for each other. We as people can show each other different. But sometimes that may require us as people holding each other accountable and being like, hey, like, this isn't right or whatever. But at the end of the day, we are indeed all autonomous. We all make choices and decisions, regardless of if we're actually making choices and decisions or not, regardless if we're doing what someone else tells us to do or told us to do, or whether we just continue in the ways that we were raised, we're still making choices and decisions. Whether we know better, whether we know different or not. So I actually like barometrics in this way, but it's like if the lamb can find a way to cut itself free of the plant and live life as an animal, that's when it changes. It's born as a plant, but it can live free. It is its dependence upon the source, or it is the dependence that it has upon source or upon its parents, upon whatever it is that's connected to, that causes it to die or to live within that vicinity, because it doesn't see itself as capable. It's almost like it dies because it doesn't believe that it can live any other way. Do I have a deck that is real like guidance-y? I typically have aversions to a lot of those decks because any deck can provide guidance or whatever. Um, so I don't have to go for one in particular that is that, but it is nice to have in cases like this. And in cases like this, there is a deck that I go to. And that deck is this one right here. The universe has your back. I got it on Wish though, so I didn't even know that that's what that deck was called. I might also pull a Lafruma because it's the Lafruma Healing Oracle. It might be the only like healing cards that I have. Like I said, I don't usually gravitate towards healing decks because anything can provide healing. And when something is dedicated to it, it almost like pigeonholes it for me. Like there's a certain flexibility that I like that that I don't feel that I can get with healing cards. But again, I don't have enough of them to make it accurate. Whatever. I don't know, because it almost seems like, especially to like open with a healing deck, it makes it so much harder to get the message that like healing doesn't need to happen, right? It's like the surrender cards. Like, what if there's nothing that you need to surrender because you're in a decent phase? But since you use the surrender cards, it's almost like it can create things where it doesn't necessarily need to be. But also, that's where we use our own discernment and resonance. If it doesn't resonate as something that you need to surrender, then don't take it. You know what I mean? And also, that's where readers too, I'm sure, right? There's like the purpose of the spread, who it's meant to resonate with because of that purpose, because it's meant to provide guidance or healing or whatever to those who are in need. So it's going to resonate for them, right? If they don't need it, then it won't, or it won't pop up on the algorithm, or life, the universe, the workings of things won't bring it into their experience because they don't need it. You know? But also, sometimes we try to make stuff fit as well. So, we get a card. Thank you, universe, for helping me see beyond the limits of fear. Thank you for expanding my perception so that I can see what is of the highest good. So I guess this is a card confirmation that, yeah, it's the universe, it's life that helps us see beyond those things. Oh, gosh. I'm doing the jumper shuffle. When I'm in alignment with the love of the universe, peace cannot be disrupted. It's almost like an eyeball. Instead of praying for an outcome, I pray for the highest good of all. For the highest good for all. And energy flows where my intention goes. See that I am a spirit having a human experience, and I'm here to get closer to love is at the bottom of the deck. See, I think that's another thing, because I was watching a video the other day, and I was just like, sometimes it seems like the spiritual answer to a situation that can cause fear is avoidance. It's like, pretend like it's not happening. If you don't see it in your reality, then is it even happening? If a tree falls in the middle of the woods and no one's there to hear it, then did it even fall in the first place? And if nobody ever enters the forest to see that it's fallen, then that tree stands forever. And it's like, no, yes, it makes a noise, even if there isn't an ear to catch it. Yes, it failed, even if no one sees it. And even if we don't want to believe it, there are some not great things that are happening. And when we choose avoidance and when we choose ignorance, we limit ourselves of opportunities to actually change it around for the better. But again, it's because it's not easy to be in observance of something and to not just see it for anything other than what it is. It's almost like because it's so easy to watch the news, and especially if the news reports disproportionately or more so on the bad things that are happening than the good, then it's like it's understandably difficult to see like resolution or something better coming, right? Like it's hard to see things working out if we only focus on the things that aren't. But this energy flows where intention goes. It's like without, it's like it just, it happens without any interference. And it is so, to me, in my mind, right? Take it as a resonance. If it don't resonate for you, don't take it. And some of these things are just musings. But it's like, it's so, like, if you, because like in the Bible, right? I was born and raised Christian. And like in Christianity, they talk about how the devil knows the Bible. The devil knows Bible better than better than some of the most educated people knows Bible. Partially because I guess you could say the devil was there. You know what I mean? But it's like the devil knows the Bible in Christianity. The devil will try to use scripture against you. The devil tempted Jesus when he was what 40 days in the desert. It's like you could turn rocks into bread. You ain't got to be hungry right now. And Jesus was like, if you don't get out of here, leave me alone. It might work on one of them other ones, but not on me. I am my father's son. Okay. But it's like the devil knows Bible. And it's almost so dastardly shadow, so big brain evil to take the most powerful, most capable of people, of the spiritually enlightened, and to put them on a path where instead of focusing their energy and efforts in a way to resolve a lot of the problems, you convince them to ignore it. Then it's like you don't have to worry about anybody coming and ruining the good time that you're having because all of the folks who can don't. Or they become so self centered in their own experience that screw the rest of them. But you convince them, you make them believe that in their self centeredness, in their deliberate isolation from the rest of the world, that they're actually helping the rest of the world. Meanwhile, the world continues to be what it has been for how long? And when it does change, it seems that it's people who are actively involved in the change that are like changing those things. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was just like, I guess if I was some evil mastermind, that would be the way that I do it. Convince all the people that can do something. And again, it's like it's so it almost makes me think of like the karmic washing machine and how like my introduction to the twin flame journey was basically at the end of it when a lot of people were calling it like toxic or whatever because of what people justify, because of what people use that path to justify, and how it's so apparently selective, but everybody's on it literally. Um, but it was like, again, it's just one of those like you take a person who was otherwise progressing. It's like if the spiritual journey is a linear path, then that was one of the things to divert people. And then they get stuck there for however long they get stuck. And it's like, if that is truly someone's path, then it's not a diversion. That is on their straight and narrow. I know it isn't, but if it were, it's like the path isn't straight and narrow, but it is. The path isn't straight. The path isn't narrow, but it can be straight. Like it can be one path that is very twisty and very windy or whatever, but it is our path. And because of how it twists and turns, and because of how sometimes you have to go east to clear a mountain before you can head back west, it can feel like loopy. But in the totality of things that we need to experience to get us where we're going, like that would be on that person's path. And they would like, you know, rather than it taking them off. But anyway, and in some ways, it's like it preys on the human condition of wanting to be loved deeply and wanting to feel special and wanting to like who would hear about twin flames and like not want to be one, right? It's like if someone's like, hey, we're giving out superpowers, who's not going to show up? You know what I mean? Regardless of whatever. And also, like, it was so, and again, I came in on the tail end of it. Um, but it was so ubiquitous that it's like it's one of the first things that you see when you join the spiritual community while you're still like navigating, finding your truth, and like while you're still making the transition. It's like this big shiny thing that's there. So, and it's like, of course, it's going to hold resonance in parts of it. And of course, parts of it are going to be because it is, and other parts because we want them to be. But it's almost like because it was everywhere, it's like we didn't, it's like there wasn't an opportunity for someone to get a good, solid spiritual grounding in and of themselves before it's like, hey, and there's this other person. And so there were a lot of people who tried to make it fit. And there are a lot of people who are convinced that it is not real. And I am not here to argue either way. But again, it's just like it part of it, and it's not, it's almost like it's predatory by nature because humans are humans. You know? It's like even if it isn't bad, or even if it isn't false, even if it isn't meant to be misguiding or misleading, or even if it isn't meant to take people off of their path, it can. Because people are people. Everybody wants to be loved and everyone wants to feel special. And those who don't are probably jaded. Those who don't have probably experienced enough isolation and disappointment in life that they convince themselves that they don't want it, or that they genuinely don't want it. But again, usually it's because of circumstance. Now, there are some who live lives that are free of like romantic attraction, but it's like plenty of platonic, it's plenty of familial, like there's connection in other ways. There's still love that's present. It's just present in different forms. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I think it was also a point in time where I had a lot of gripes with the universe, and I had a lot of complaints about how things are ran down here, or just like life in general. How it seems that it's so incentivized to be a not great person. Like you can get much richer much quicker by being scummy and taking advantage of people. And it's like, well, in what world is there a, a balance between good and evil? In what world are we shown a balance when it's so disproportionate to one side versus the other? But then at the end of the day, I got to keep in mind that people are people. And we like to think of our ancestors and even the world at large, the collective, as one big group of whatever, but the collective, our ancestors, are composed of individuals who made choices and decisions just like we make choices and decisions, who are faced with the pressures of life just like we're faced with the pressures of life. And those choices and decisions have consequences. You know, history is a thing because we continue to incarnate on this planet. History is a thing even in our own incarnation. There are choices and decisions that we make when we're young that can like affect us when we're older. You know what I mean? But we were always the one making that choice and decision. I think it's like this disembodied or whatever, but it's like it's a collective of people and we all make choices and decisions. So regardless of governments, regardless of politics, there are real life people who make choices and decisions, who have hearts and minds and bodies and connections. And we continue to do it today. You know what I mean? So I guess the villain is there is no villain. It's just a bunch of people doing the best that they can do with what's instilled in them, what they come in with, and what they're able to pick up and glean from the universe. I just think that it does the world an incredible disservice to take some of the most powerful, most aligned, most enlightened, and to put them in a position of not doing anything for the rest of the world besides manifesting and praying and doing this and doing that. But also, maybe it wasn't the time for the world to be any different. Just like in my own personal life, I lived at least 24 years of not wanting anything better, of choosing to remain miserable, literally choosing. I was where I was at the time, and I wasn't ready for anything different. And ultimately, it wasn't for me to be. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if it was for me to be or not to be, because I am where I am in my life right now. The choices and decisions are already made. And I can't go back and unmake and remake, and I can't change the past or whatever. All I can do is make choices and decisions now for a future that I want moving forward. And if that involves cleaning up messes or opening up to things that I was previously closed to, doing things that I never thought I'd do, this is a Patrick now that is concerned about, improving the now, but because of a series of improved nows, having a better future. And ignoring and pretending like, maybe it's because it hasn't been effective for me. Maybe it's because I lived a life of ignoring my problems. Like I say that I wasn't dumb enough to think that I could run from my problems, but I thought that if I ignored them, they'd go away, which isn't any smarter. We just all do the best we can. But at some point, more often than not, and not even more often than not, because it's all situational, it's all circumstantial. There are going to be times where an action needs to be taken, and there are going to be times where inaction is the best course of action. And for the times where action needs to be taken, we got to be able to take those actions. You know what I mean? So, La Fruma Healing Oracle, what guidance, what healing, intuitive wisdom have you to share? Mona and Atberston at the Coats. Almost at Kuzma. I mean, honestly, I always think Kuzma when I see the room because I learned it as Kuzma. So Mona hasn't stuck in my brain yet. Ing, Ignite, Water Meadow. Flipped over, and then the bottom of the deck is Anwula, Willful Resistance. $43.22. Something supportive and loving. Holly is illustrating a point for me right now. When this reading needed Holly's light the most, she was nowhere to be found. I told you. If I were evil big brain, that's how I would do it. If I were constructing a system in which I didn't want anything to change for as long as possible, that's how I do it. Also, you create a bunch of like media and narratives and stories like the Matrix. Like the Matrix is interesting to me because it's one that is used so widely on the spiritual journey as a collective on spiritual YouTube. We constantly talk about, or you hear about the Matrix and getting out of the Matrix. But if you watch the movie, The Matrix, they were miserable. They were miserable outside of the Matrix. Dude in the first movie was so miserable that he wanted to be plugged back into it. And he was willing to jeopardize all of humanity to do it, just to be plugged back in and to have his memories of the real world erased. But again, if I was evil big brain, that's what I would do. I would convince people that even if they got out of it, they'd be more miserable than they were in that. They would be more miserable. It's like the spiritual journey is so hard. Shadow work is so hard that you're better off if you're just asleep. Forget everything that you know. Abandon all of your progress and go back to sleep. It'd be easier. I mean, again, like spirituality has been around literally forever, and the world is what the world is. You know, at some point, maybe it's the age of Aquarius. There's a point when, like, there's a presence and an enlightened, empowered individual. And also, again, like there's the part where the teaching has to be spread. Like one person reaches and attains something, and it is their mission, it is their goal, it is their purpose to inform others. They sit in the role of the hierophant so that others know that there is different than it that exists and that is out there. It's the hierophant. The hierophant helps us see beyond our circumstances in life, helps us see beyond what the universe has queued up for us in terms of lived life. And it is the emperors who go out and make choices and decisions, and the chariots who go, like, we all have a part to play. And for every part, there is a scene. And even one role can have different parts as it comes to the narrative, the overall narrative of the story in different scenes. It's an evolution of many things. And maybe now is the time, especially since 2020, since so many people are asking for different and so many people are asking for more. Now is the time to be present. Now is the time to show up. Now is the time to actually do things rather than continue being non-active bystanders in the background that just thoughts and prayers better. I think also too, there is a reality that we have to face in our complacency, and in being complicit to certain things in life. And none of us wants to be the bad guy. None of us wants to make mistakes. None of us wants to be related to or even remotely in the vicinity of wrong. But not wanting to be wrong or refusing to acknowledge things that we do that don't contribute to what it is that we want, like that refusal doesn't get us any closer to where we actually want to be. And we might actually get a whole lot closer, a whole lot quicker if we can just own it and do better. You know what I mean? But anyway, Ing, for the words that I can't find, son of the sea, Freyr's fertility forces fauna from the soil's soul. Sunshine saturates the sacral as purified rain rolls to the roots of all life. The soaked, saturated seeds split. The first thread of germination plunges down so the wild water meadow flowers can sprout. Shoot and bloom with the soul's new tune. Ignite the song of your water phoenix. I'm actually going to keep shuffling because that it just makes me think of Baromet's, because it literally talks about the fauna. We are Baromet sheep. We are plant people who are dependent upon the vine that we grow off of. But we need to break free of the vine. And at Burston, it was literally at the cut. We need to break free of the vine and experience life and move through life in a world that is more bountiful and sustainable for ourselves and for each other and for all. Sure, I'll take them. Bottom of the deck now is Hell, returning light. This is the hail. No, that's Hoggle. Hoggle is the hail. Because it's in lightning and hail that the jackalope can reproduce. It's in the presence of the storm that the hybrid can reproduce itself. Because otherwise, hybrids just die. They die out. They're typically sterile. We get Feo. We get Igashomer. We get Hertaka. We get Nide. And we get Swelchness. I feel like this is literally everything that keeps it. Like Feo is the box that we're trapped in. Igashomer is our dependence on the vine rather than our independence of doing what we need to do. And then, if we try to get too far off the vine, heartache, shadows, and the past come for us. And we get spooked, we get scared, and we cling to the vine. Cling to the vine to do the things that we can't do or that we believe we can't do in our own lives. And it keeps us swirling in that vortex of the past, never brave enough, never courageous enough, never present enough to make choices and decisions to create difference, true difference, so that tomorrow is any different than today and yesterday. And it's that very courage, it's that very bravery that we exhibit through all of our dark nights and stuff as we're making progress on our spiritual journey that causes our today to be so different, so vastly different than it was from our yesterdays. And a lot of that stuff, if you're on your spiritual path and journey, you may find it didn't just happen. It required things of you to be where you are now, to be in the space of being able to appreciate and to have gratitude for where you are now, especially compared to where you were yesterday. And there will be a point when all we have to do is receive, when the manifestations come in. But even receiving is an action, because you can refuse it. And refusing something is also an action. It's a choice. It's a decision. All right, Lafruma, you've done an excellent job of showing me the trappings of the past. Now show me, please, moving forward into the now. I think a lot of times we think we're in the now moment, but if there's a past that we can't face, or a future that we don't want to live in, more specifically, because the past is here. If there's a past that we can't face or we refuse to acknowledge, it can be almost impossible for us to tell if we're truly in the present moment or not. For us to tell if we're not reliving cycles and seasons from the past, It's like if we refuse to acknowledge the part that we play in our lives, and let's say that there's something, let's say we never eat our vegetables, right? But because we never eat our vegetables, our body desperately needs something that a vegetable produces. And it's something that, like, we're not taking a supplement for it either, right? So we're like, I'm doing things different. I'm exercising. I'm working out. I've cut out junk food. I don't drink any of this, but we're still not eating the veggies. It's like we can be so convinced that we're in a different now, but we're experiencing the same issues because of the things that remain unaddressed, uncorrected from then. So it's almost like the marker is still back here because we're still not getting what we need in the now. And we look at all the things that we are doing. I feel like that's a terrible metaphor, but I can't really paint it any other way. It's like, it's just like there's something that we still aren't doing. So we're not truly in the now moment. We're still living then because of how affected we are by it. And it's because we're affected to the degree still that we're affected that we continue to not make certain choices and decisions and to make others. And it's because of that willful ignorance of that, it's because of our own determined avoidance of that we don't even see that there's a choice that we can make to provide results right now. Because between now and the future, eventually there has to come a point in time where something changes, right? Like if you are afraid of spiders in your now moment and you're manifesting a future that you're not afraid of spiders, you're also manifesting a moment, a point in time where at some point you face a spider and you realize you're not afraid. But if in every now moment you never had that bridging, connecting, that choice or decision that manifests that reality, it remains in the future indefinitely to the point where you run out of days. And it's just like there are times when we push things out much further than they need to be. Now it becomes karmic because you had so many ample opportunities in this lifetime to do something that you've never done, right? You create problems for your next life. You create problems for the folks who come to this earth after you because it wasn't your job, it wasn't your responsibility to heal your ancestral whatever. It was your ancestors. Okay, well, now your kids have that problem. And their kids are going to have that problem. And they can thank their ancestor, which is you, for not doing the work, just like you blame your other ancestors for not doing the work. It's this game of constantly shifting blame, but maybe that's the human condition, to never reach that point where we actually do it, where we actually make the changes, where we decide to do better and where we actually do better. And that's not a failing on any hierophant. That's not a failing on any spiritual belief system. That's a failing on people. Or wild ox, untamable. I love this because we just had the pin, the fail, the box. We are outside of the box. Where are we going? Rod, is this wild ox going to go somewhere? Are we going to do something? Earth Mason, thy earthly power. One more. And if nothing comes out, I'll just take this. Okay. Bottom of the deck is the title card. Love it. No better card I want to see at the bottom. It is your earthly power. It is your earthly right that while you are incarnate, while you are living your life, to make those choices and decisions, to change things now, to guarantee a different tomorrow. That is within your earthly power. That's not spirit's power. That's not heaven. That's not your ancestors, your guides, your guardians, your spirit crew. It is your power on earth to make changes and decisions on earth to better your life on earth and the lives of your children and your progenitors or your relatives or just humanity in general. If you don't got kids and you don't want kids, that's the gift that you can leave for the future, making a difference now rather than just, again, it's just, I don't know. Anyway, of course, this is all my own personal beliefs and opinions, and I am biased as the cards come out, I guess. And so I'm going to read them the way that I'm reading them. If you see something else on the cards, take it as it resonates, I guess. But maybe that's what the age of Aquarius is. It's the enlightenment of the age of Pisces, but it's put into action by everybody. And then, of course, the future becomes this title card, unknowable thing. It's almost like if someone's like, what's my baby going to look like in the future? And it's like, well, I don't know. You haven't even picked a partner yet. You know what I mean? I can tell you what your baby would look like if you pick this person. And if you can tell me the night that you're going to conceive, then I can flip through the egg partnered with the uncountable number of sperms, and we can run the math and tell you what your baby will most likely look like based upon the genetic half of your information that you were providing and the genetic half of information that they were providing at that time. But if you ain't even got a partner yet, how am I supposed to tell you what your baby won't look like? It's like we haven't even done things. And maybe that's one of the pitfalls of tarot too. It's like before we even make choices and decisions, we go to a psychic, a medium, a card reader to tell us what the outcome will be. And I guess that's an interesting question. Do we truly yes, we make choices and decisions. But there's something almost disempowered or disempowering about needing to consult so much before a choice and decision is made. Is that contradictory for us to have free will / know that we have free will, but also at the same time simultaneously need to be so certain of how our actions are going to play out? Because it's almost like it's not a free will choice or decision if you already know how it's going to play out, type of thing. You know, I don't know. Behind the title card, because I showed you, is Hod, hooded, unseen. I feel like therein lies the future that we struggle so hard to see as reality. And again, like for me, as I read the Queen of Cups as a pre-high priestess energy, the Queen of Cups is excellent at seeing how things are going to play out around her, but she doesn't feel as great at seeing how her actions are going to change things. It's almost like That's So Raven on Disney Channel. She would get a glimpse of something that happened in the future, and sometimes she would try to prevent it. But sometimes her actions became the very thing that precipitated, I was going to say perspired, that precipitated that very thing happening. She couldn't see that she caused it. She could only see that it happened. If she could see that she caused it, she would know not to do whatever, and then the future that she wanted to prevent would not be. And again, it goes back to that, how many times have we said that we're not going to be our parents, only to become them exactly? And I feel like that's the part where it's almost like promoted, where avoidance is a solution, right? Well, if you don't put any energy towards it, then it's not going to happen. Because whenever we try to prevent a future that we don't want, it ends up happening anyway. And again, because it can be so easy to be consumed, like energetically consumed by circumstance, that we can't put any energy, or it becomes difficult to put energy into like moving things in the opposite direction or to for a change, that for us it becomes more beneficial to ignore it, pretend like it isn't happening, and to bypass, right? To put into the future all of those things that we want to experience now, but to also never make the choices and decisions now to precipitate those futures. This is jackalope. This is the jackalope medicine that I was getting caught up on. And it is this: something implausible or unlikely, but it actually happens. The medicine of the jackalope is that it actually happens. The impossible. And again, I think that was Ream's, I think it's the four samurai swords in the mandala. Through a series of events, it makes the impossible inevitable. But it doesn't have, it's almost like we spiritually and energetically give up before we even start. But also, again, it's like it's important that we put action and choice and decision behind what it is that we spiritually and energetically put intention towards. It's both plant and animal. Both, like we are, yeah, it's this. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, but in the experience, we're still human. So in the experience, it may require us to do human, earthly power things to move something. If we were purely spiritual, then maybe, yeah, we could go, let there be light, let there be this, let there be that, and it would just manifest. But we're having human experiences. So there's your higher self, your spiritual self that says, let there be, manifest, manifest, manifest. And then there's your earthly, human, physical, bodily self that makes the choices, makes the decisions, receives, accepts, rejects accordingly to have that happen. It's this dual effort on both parts. And again, what the time is now and moving forward is different than what the time is now and like what led us to this moment. Right. All right. It's been almost 3 hours. I feel sufficiently whatever. And I don't know if it's like that Uranus energy of yesterday. I don't know if it's indicative of the times. I don't know if there's something coming and something happening that like it's going to be important for us to. It's like we've done a really good job of creating a narrative of like shadow work and inner child healing, like facing the darkness, the pain, and the trauma of the past in shadow work, and recognizing situations that aren't situations that are of course less than ideal, but also situations that aren't conducive to moving us forward in a way that we want with the empath narcissist. Everyone's a narcissist, the covert narcissist, gaslighting. Like, is it overdone? Maybe. But again, it serves the point. It has served the point of giving a lot of people tools to recognize and to become aware of some things. Right. And then we also have the inner child healing, which is the welcoming of the light. So it's like story wise, narrative wise, it feels like we have a good past, now, future sort of situation going where we can be open to possibilities and opportunities for change. I mean, like I see it everywhere, literally everywhere. People that I grew up with on Facebook talking about shadow work, and everyone's talking about the journey and journeys and like healing and stuff like that, right? Looking for a new vibration. Beyonce singing about it. And people know what she's talking about. People are on it. People are clocking it when she says new vibration. Oh, she's in her healing bag. Oh, she's talking about having done that shadow work. And maybe this is just the next natural point for us moving forward to actually create everything that the age of Aquarius has been desired to be. But again, at some point, we have to do it. We have to exercise our earthly power and make today the tomorrow that we wished for yesterday. But again, not to say that crappy stuff won't continue to happen. Obviously, life is going to keep being life, and things come in stages and phases and in waves. So what moves us out of a situation may not be where we end up forever. But we don't have to put necessarily any temporality on it, right? Like it doesn't have to be, oh, this is going to be my long term forever. And it also doesn't have to be, oh, well, this will only be for a month or 2 months. We can be more present and just allow it to be whatever it is for however long it is. Be it a day, a week, a month, an hour, 10 months, a year, a decade, the rest of our lives. All right. It's final card time. I love that. I might try to find that mandala. I just love it so much. And I feel like I've referenced it often. It makes the impossible inevitable. And again, like in all of this, we don't have to shame, blame, guilt ourselves or anybody for anything. We just make different choices and decisions now, moving forward into the future. Circumstances and situations were what they were. Perth, Pear Tree, Cosmic Surge, number 14, bottom of the deck is Tear. What do you recall? Remember that before this, there was that. My pear is so ripe, you ought to reach for it, but you cannot find me. You sense me in my scent. Listen. Woodwind whistling, whirling a trance state, whipping at the curtain that hides the other places. Will you not dance in and reach for my cosmic fruit offered and surf the cosmos with me? I think this elusive pair is about to become a lot more visible. And I think that because of the hooded, unseen, unseeable, and unseeing thing that lied beneath the title card. Tear, proto-god so old that time has smelted all emotions within. War and fury have been hammered, reformed, made over, recreated, refashioned through the compassion to understand all shadows, all destinies, as part of the whole. Under the tutelage of Tear, all blows, all hammer clangs, and all strikes glow from the flow of love's breath he offers to all life. Wisdom is beauty and compassion, ageless. Both of these mention times before now, right? Proto-god so old that time has melted all emotions within. What do you recall? Remember that before this, there was that. Before this, there was that. It's in both of these. And then under tier is rasa, explore and alchemize. This is my lunar eclipse rune. Oh, the moon. That's why I was going to talk about it. Because the moon came out in a dream, and there was an energy of things that aren't seen, but are subtly felt. Very, very subtly. But, intuition and discernment are good for subtle things. Thank you, Lafruma, for playing both sides of the story today. And ending us on a high note. The universe has your back. Ooh. All right. We'll do 2 regulars and then the flipper shuffle. That's 1 flip shuffle. Oh, wow. That showed its face and went right back. 2 flip shuffles. Oh, there we go. On the 3rd flip shuffle, I'll take this one. When I lean on certainty and faith, I change my mind about the world I see. This is actually that's the box. When I lean on certainty and faith, I change my mind about the world I see. What's interesting is the world doesn't change. And it's almost like what we see doesn't change either. But it's our mind that changes about what we see. And then there is nothing sexier than my authentic truth. There you go. Ooh, it's sexy. Oh, you remember the one card that looked like the eyeball? I don't remember what it said, but it's making me think of this card. If you rewind it, you will see it. There are no timestamps in this video because I never created a spread and pulled cards. I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness is at the bottom of the deck. I love this I do. I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness. And then when I lean on certainty and faith, I change my mind about the world I see. Here's the changed mind about the world that one sees. Here is the action. Almost to bring it, it's almost, what is that? Not additive. Associative? Almost associatively. Because this is an expansion of consciousness. Once consciousness expands, when their mind sees the world in a different way. Just almost like literally, right? If you can look at the same thing but see it in a completely different way, the way you see that thing has just expanded. Or the way that you conceptualize of that thing and the things that you associate with what you see has expanded. This is the action that moves one closer to what it is that they see. Like the expansion of consciousness and awareness is the first part. I mean, it's the only part, I guess, if, according to a lot of folks, it seems like just expand your consciousness, and the 5D will just manifest itself. I guess I always wonder how that's supposed to work, right? Like if the whole world is just like, we wake up one day and it's different. Like, is that how things work on Earth? Or is it us who create difference in the world? You know what I mean? I don't know anyway. What do I know? I'm just some dude. I can't even say I'm some dude in my mom's house anymore. I'm just some dude floating out in the world next to a cornfield somewhere. Okay. All right. Ooh, we got some on the jumper shuffle. Who flipped over? I know I saw. Hold up, wait. I know I saw like a flash of some red or something. Did nobody flip over? I really thought I saw something. I guess not. Guess I made it up. Almost had the thought of a dream. Oh, yeah, that's the dream. Okay. Goblin at the bottom of the deck. The satyr was at the cut. All right. One, two, three. Hold up. I just saw a face. I saw it was colors. I saw it. I know you're in here. Stop, stop messing with me. This mythical creature is elusive. I knew I saw a flash of red. Rainbow snake came out. First, I saw a flash of red, and then I saw like the blues. Bottom of the deck is satyr. The satyr that came out at the cut with goblin. So maybe it was just to put a different card at the bottom of the deck. I don't know. Or maybe it waited until the underlying energy had shifted to reveal itself. Like it was incubating when the goblin was in there. But now that the satyr is there, it's ready to be born. I actually saw Rainbow Snake and the recommended for, and that's where I'll read it. As a power animal. Rainbow snake as a power animal. Recommended use for those who are required to build, produce, or create something, or to change their surroundings in a constructive manner. For those in need of creative art or artistic inspiration, combats the destructive basilisk or any negative counterproductive monster. Caution, there are no cautions associated with this card. Desired qualities, creativity, productivity, and the ability to make changes happen. Mantras. I become the rainbow snake so that I can create. I slither over the landscape and bring it to life. In the coils of my mind, I support an entire world, and a rainbow from heaven brings me inspiration. Extra suggestion, visualize an undulating rainbow extending down from the cosmos and entering your mind. Feel the wondrous creative energy that flows through it. Feel yourself being moved by this energy. You may want to then write down or draw what immediately comes to your mind afterward. You know what this rainbow snake makes me think of immediately? The rainbows that I saw yesterday. Or was that this morning? The rainbows that I saw this morning? Or was that yesterday, girl? I don't know. I've already forgotten. I think it was this morning. I'm not sure. No, that was yesterday. I was asleep this morning. I don't know. Yeah, that I went live after I got off work. So that was yesterday. Um, the rainbows in the androgen. I forget what the rabies. In the androgen, there were two rainbows, and then there was the spider. The spider also builds and creates. And even in the spider animal card, it has a rainbow on it. But I love that as I'm talking about us building and creating, the world, are making choices and decisions, taking actions now to create that world rather than to make it what our kids' problem or our kids' problem. Just put it into the ethers. And again, and I don't know, it's just like maybe it's a decentralized perspective on my part, or I guess if you look at it from the outside, you can see it in a way that you wouldn't necessarily see it if you were inside of it, where it's like, again, the frustration that one can very rightfully so feel about their ancestors and all of the things that their ancestors didn't do to have one in a position to do the work that they need to do in this lifetime. But then it's like if you don't do it, you just become another ancestor who didn't do it to your progenitors. Like they'll think about you the same thing that you're thinking about your other ancestors. But at least those ancestors got you to where you are now, you know. Anyway, that it's not. It is. It because I don't go into work until 6 p.m. It racks my brain because I'm like, wait, am I off today or do I work today? I'm like, no, I'm off today because I don't have to go to work at 6 p.m. tonight. So tonight is my night off because it's 10 o'clock and I'm not at work right now. That's why I put it in my phone. I put it in my phone when I'm supposed to be at work because I was warned beforehand. They were like, there was a person who could never keep track of when they were supposed to be here. And because I work an overnight shift, like if I work Thursday, I go in Wednesday night. And I was like, you know what? I am going to learn from someone else's mistake. And my solution will be to put in my phone the time that I actually work. So on my calendar, I work like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But on the schedule, I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because I keep track of when I have to go to work. They keep track of the day that I get off of work, basically. Since I get off of work or since I'm done working on Thursday, Thursday is my work day. But I got to start on Wednesday. Anyway, it's already saved me. Anyway, I feel like Rainbow Snake is just validating that I didn't aimlessly, pointlessly, needlessly rant and ramble for an hour and a half. That confirmation is reassuring, although it was going to be what it is. But yeah, it is reassuring. So that's what I got, I guess. Again, for me, I know that, first of all, I can tell that I'm not necessarily, there's something different. Like even when I was reading for people last time at the psychic fair, I was there for an hour. And so I got to read for a few people. And I was just like, sorry, this isn't giving me anything like new. It's just like, it's telling me, for one person, it was like, that the circumstances that they've been through in their life does not define them and who they are at all. It's within the deficiencies or discrepancies or the inability of one to provide love in a way that is loving and nurturing and caring and kind and received in such a way to another. It is not a value statement or a value judgment on one person that somebody who was supposed to love them wasn't able to. Who knows where they come from and what they've been through in life, I don't know. And then on another person, it was, again, because I think I read for 3 people. And one, like the last one was more, it was like, you are this rock star, can't nobody tell you nothing, accomplishing the impossible individual. Like, keep doing that. And like that was it. And I feel like, because sometimes there's this thread of like an energy that's coming or something that's happening, or it's like, hey, be mindful of this or be aware of this. Like usually it feels like there's a point to it that is externally focused or externally motivated. Like this is happening. This energy outside of you is present. But lately it's been so focused on like, the person I'm reading for as an individual or just us as individuals collectively, that like there is no And it's not that the outside world isn't present, but it's like that's not the focus. That's not the importance. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. It's about you and you getting to know you and you being clear on who you are as you navigate through life. And I suspect that it's because something is about like something is brewing. Or maybe it's just the time that folks are going to start doing things. Maybe since 2020, even before 2020, like maybe there are some things that have been like cooking in the background in the collective. Because there's also been a few readings of like ideas that float the collective unconscious that the subconscious mind of some will sort of like pick up on. Like when there is major breakthroughs, how we'll see it in a few different places around the world within a fairly narrow timescape. Like some of that might start to be coming out, or they may be like it's just a time to start doing and creating. Like this is a like the individuals of the collective are moving the collective forward rather than this global, or rather than like this cosmic or celestial energy that's moving the collective. Like the collective is moving itself. Like if the collective were starfish. uh, oh, I guess that's not the best example, but it's like it's a fish that's moving through the water. It's an animal or an object that's moving through the water rather than being carried by the water. That's the that's the difference of the Lagrangian versus Euler. That's Euler. Eulerian. That's the difference of Lagrangian and Eulerian viewpoints of a fluid. The Eulerian method treats the particle phase as a continuum and develops its conservation equations on a control volume basis, and in a similar form in a similar form as that for the fluid phase. The Lagrangian method considers particles as a discrete phase and tracks the pathway of each individual particle. So in the I know this just got like real Sagittarian out of nowhere because science is Sagittarius for me. This hasn't been on my brain since school. So in the Lagrangian, like let's say you have this water, you have a stream of water. The Lagrangian looks at the particle through the water. Like this is how the particle moves through the water. And that's how this particle moves through the water, and it tracks particles through water. The Eulerian method, like let's say this is the body of water, and it looks at like this much. And it looks at basically how particles pass through this specific area in the water. So it tracks changes within a specific volume rather than tracking a particle's presence throughout the body as a whole. And it's almost like, I guess it's more Lagrangian, like we're moving through the water as a whole rather than us being stationary and things just kind of sort of like happening, energies happening to us or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, where's my Sagittarius deck? Where's the Science Tarot? Hold up. I got to grab a Science Tarot card. I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. No, I'll just grab a Science Tarot because it's not going to take me long, and then I'll just go to the bathroom. I think I can hold it. Actually, just kidding. I'll be back. All right, I am back. And I need my glasses to find. Y'all remember that one time I didn't turn off the camera when I got up from my chair and my booty crack was showing? You only caught it if you were live. Because I edited that video. I was like, oh my gosh, no, not my booty crack out. I didn't have to worry about this at my old place because I didn't have that much room, you know? That's a level of vulnerability that no one needs to be comfortable enough with, besides the individuals that do. But for y'all folks on the internet, no. I am not trying to get banned because my shirt was riding a little high in the back and my shorts were hanging a little low. Anyway, I'm hungry now. I was about to go to bed. Darn it. Okay. All right. So I have the science tarot because we just got real sciencey. I guess also it's interesting because in my dream it was about water. I had two dreams about water. One dream about, again, my mom just driving us over the cliff into liquid water. And then another dream of a snowball fight with solid water. And now we're talking about fluid properties with Lagrange versus Euler. Lagrangian references versus Eulerian. All right. One card from the Science Tarot, gifted to us by Sagittarius. Sagittarius isn't the only sign that's capable of science, but it does rule the sciences through its rulership of higher education and observation and higher levels of thinking. Why do I feel like Mercury would rule sciences? I don't know. Anyway. Maybe it's the Virgonian aspect of the scientific method. We got three cards. We have the Three of Fire. Oh my gosh. Every time, I'm going to be real honest with y'all. Every single time I use this deck, I see this card in particular. Who the freak is this? Sorry. I'm sorry. I see this one card in particular, and so I've low-key been avoiding it. It's like every time I use this deck. And it's a water card. The bottom of the deck is natural selection, judgment. I'm going to say that this is a little bit of mankind's, I would say mankind's interference with natural selection, but that might be giving mankind a little bit too much credit. This is the bottom of the deck. And I was going to say it may be mankind's interference because it's like, well, some of these white butterflies or some of these like gray black butterflies may just be these smoke covered white butterflies. But the whole thing about natural selection is how everything evolves around each other. So like for some butterflies or moths, you may find that a certain species has like a brown color or a darker color because evolutionarily, the lighter ones were easier for the predators to see. So they all got eaten. And when they got eaten, there weren't any left to procreate. Like that predator had selected for basically a gene within that population. And as that gene was being removed from the gene pool of the population, the number just dwindled and dwindled and dwindled because those that are easier to see, it's like lower hanging fruit. Why would you waste effort into trying to differentiate this small speckle of black or white that's on this tree when it's mostly brown when there's like a white moth or butterfly right there that like contrasts with its environment? It's easy pickings for the predator. Are we talking about the baronets? No, not necessarily. But that's why I was going to be like, it's partially about mankind's effect on natural selection or the selection, but it's like natural selection is almost a predator prey, individual and environment process. Like that's how it happens. So, you know, anyway, it doesn't feel as um, as forced, I guess. It doesn't feel like it's not a part of natural selection. Like it's another factor now. There's some mucus to clear. It's just another factor that's being selected for now. Those that can survive humanity effing up the planet. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Under 20 is number 2, and number 2 is number 1. Benzene Dream is the high priestess. I have no clue what benzene dream is, but I know some people pop bennies to sleep at night. Benadryl. There is also some like, this is interesting. It feels like in his benzene dream, he is this raven thing that is like observing this. This is weird. I would say, given the context of what this reading has been up until this point, this is the importance of the people, because I've talked about a lot of like, it's action time, it's go time, it's time to do something and not exist in this spiritual bubble isolated from the rest of the world. It's like there are those who bring things to the awareness of others, or those who like queue up for the queue up on the manifestation docket that expand. It's like they add things to the collective subconscious for others to tap into and then manifest and make a reality. You know what I mean? Under that is ribosome, which is the magician. We got 3 majors at the bottom: judgment, the high priestess, and the magician. Natural selection, benzene dream, and the ribosome. See, there's baronets and the jackalope. It's a rabbit, but the ribosome is the thing that causes gene. Oh, there's a black and white rabbit. I didn't even catch the black and white rabbit, the black rabbit. Maybe because I had the card there. I was covering its face, and then I was like, oh. And then we got the black and white butterflies. What is up? Is there some symbolism there? Maybe. Obviously. Do I necessarily know what it is? No. So we have the 3 of fire, which is collision. Obviously, it makes me think of the Dysology card that's been coming to my mind seemingly often lately. It's maximizing or minimizing limitation or support. I think it's that one. Collision or cohesion, look to the root. Actually, I'll just pull the card. Pretty sure collision or cohesion is towards the bottom of it. No, wow. So it's the King of Diamonds, and it's in between the Seven of Clubs and the Three of Diamonds. The Seven of Clubs is a purifying light, a renewed mind, and a moment of timelessness. I like the renewed mind and the purifying light because of the eyeball. When I lean on certainty and faith, I change my mind about the world I see. Because of that card, I love the renewed mind. A purifying light, a renewed mind, a moment of timelessness, 67, 2, 6, 8, 3, and 4. And then, so the card that actually has it is the King of Diamonds, a bell that brings the physical and intangible into harmony as it pulses out into the universe, collision or cohesion. And then on the other side, the Three of Diamonds, a school of glimmering fish spotlight a sunken treasure, the rising of a new continent. 81, 19, 10, 5, 3, and 2. This looks like what? 54, 11, 2, 8, 2, and 2. A bell that brings the physical and intangible into harmony as it pulses out into the universe, collision or cohesion. And this, ooh, hold up. No, I was like, where'd the card go? This could be like the physical and the intangible that are meeting. Which, in a certain context, could be the world that we're manifesting and the world that we live in. Like they're meeting. Collision or cohesion, it's like, is it going to be one of those things where when two things try to occupy the same space, they basically cancel each other out? Or is there going to be like this harmony where they like interlock? Or is it going to be like one of these where they start to break and crumble? So anyway, that's that card. That's the bell that pulses out into the universe. What's the other card? Maximizing or minimizing limitation or support. Look to the root. That's a different card. Hold up. Because I don't know. I was like, hold up, wait. That's too long. That ain't all on the same card. The Six of Hearts, maximizing or minimizing limitation or support. Look to the root. 45, 2, 1, 2, and 4. And that card is like, there is something that is happening. Either it is happening, like either it's working for us / with us, or it's working against us. The determining factor lies within us and our ability to either receive it in a cooperative way or to compete with it in a disharmonious way. And that's oftentimes based off of how we see it. So we have the Three of Fire and Collision, the Five of Fire and Wildfire. Like this Wildfire card would come out all the time. And then I was thinking, I don't think I've heard from Ariel. I sent her a wait, did I send her a message? Or did I just think about it? Anyway, I thought about it one day. I was like, man, excuse me. I'm not going to clear them. I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to clear the mucus. I should just clear the mucus. I'm going to clear the mucus. 1 second. See, I told y'all I'm prepared now. I was like, I see this wildfire card all the time, and I never took it to mean actual wildfires because that's not my gig. But I always focus on the growth that happens after the fire because it's shown here. And it's interesting that wildfire is on the Five of Cups. Maybe it's on the Five of Cups because it's a time where we wish for water to help put out the fire. I mean, but it could have also been a desert. But a desert is always arid, it's always dry. And then the third card is the Queen of Fire, which is Carl Sagan, the storyteller of fire. And it's interesting, like, look what he's offering. It's low key. In the wreckage of the collision, in the aftermath of this collision, there is new growth. And it feels like that new growth, that single seed of something that resulted from the collision of two different galaxies, is what Carl Sagan is offering. Natural selection, the High Priestess, Benzene Dream, and the Ribosome, the Magician. It's almost like we're being offered a chance or an opportunity to. It's almost like if the world was on a pathway of total destruction, like let's call it nuclear warfare. If the world was on a path of nuclear warfare, like the high priest, like this benzene dream would be about the destruction of the world. But when the high priestess wakes up, she can do things to create a different reality. The ribosome is in charge of gene expression, and the predator is selecting for a certain gene expression. So it's almost this like it's an opportunity to change or to do things differently before it is selected against, before we become low hanging fruit and easy pickings for whatever preys on these butterflies. Basically, where we don't need to be naturally selected against because we take the dream seriously, the benzene dream seriously enough to make choices, decisions, to take action in the present. Because it's like it's like something needs to change or something is in a process of changing. It's almost like a tower. Like when the tower is a warning, it's like either we change it or we keep piddling around until the universe, spirit, the divine changes it. And it's one of those like it'd be easier for you to do it. It's still going to be work, But at least if you go and change it, you're not going to have to rebuild. It's like either you change it willingly or you work through rebuilding yourself after the destruction of the tower and then changing it anyway. Regardless, there's going to be effort put into changing it, but one of them comes with cleanup of emotional and physical means with that change. The one that where the tower had to fall. You know what I mean? Oof. See, this is why I did 11:9 today. I want to read Carl Sagan. Actually, I don't, because I think that's it. I wanted to read it before when I didn't really get it. It's an opportunity at cohesion. This is Suckloff, Angel of Verdancy, Sandalphon, Angel of New Life. No. Sandalphon, Angel of Song. Suckloff, Angel of Verdancy. Aziraphale. No. Aziraphale is the Angel of Song. Sandalphon is the Angel of New Life. Suckloff is the Angel of Verdancy. When I use the Angelarium Tarot, or when I use the Angelarium Year 2s recently, to look for Suckloff, Angel of Verdancy. It's given me that energy. For some reason. And usually there is an angel in the Judgment card. It's almost like we're given a vision of, it's like the vision that we receive is the one based upon our actions, but it's like the Ghost of Christmas Future. Ebenezer Scrooge's future is going to be different than the one that he saw because he changes. The future that Ebenezer Scrooge was shown was the future that will come to pass if he doesn't change. And it's like that's the thing with Benzine Dream and Natural Selection, or with the High Priestess and Judgment. It's like with things being on their course, this is what is most likely to happen. And we're not shown what happens if we do whatever. It's just it falls upon us to take the impetus to take action. You may know in your life what's exactly for you to do, because you know your past, and you know what you're being seen. You know what you're being seen. You know what you're being shown. And so you would know what the disparities are between the two. Or you'd have an idea of what needs to happen to cause or prevent something. Or maybe Carl Sagan is offering cohesion, and this is the result of collision. Literally. Because it's like, I had it in my mind, but then I lost it. Like it was a phrase being offered. And if we take it like this, collision is in the space of natural selection. Wildfire is the benzene dream, and the magician is the storyteller of fire, where we take that and we do whatever with that instead of having the fire and brimstone and stuff like that. Oh, these are rabbits, right? No jackalope needs to be born today. We don't have to have the lightning and the hail. We could let it go. We could let the jackalope go. Anyway, there is 3.5 hours of whatever that was. I feel like I'm back to the 3 to 5 hour videos, Anyway. I feel like I want to pull one more deck. I feel like I'm looking for one more card. But it's fine. It's already been 3.5 hours. So thank you, Kirsty and Holly and Eve, for stopping in and spending some time with me today. And Codes of Harmony. I knew there was somebody else. This was what it was. Take it if it resonates, as it resonates, when it resonates, if it resonates. And if not, don't take it. Because again, it's like there's a part and a role for everyone. And we get where we're going when we're all doing our part. So if your part and role is to continue doing what you're, oh my gosh, I gotta clear this 1 second. I forgot to unmute it. Thank you. It would have been another half hour of just silence. So maybe everything that I was saying doesn't necessarily need to be heard, but concluding it, I was saying take it when it resonates, if it resonates, as it resonates, and if it don't resonate, don't take it, of course. But I was talking about how when we're like spiritual newborns, right? Especially like to be a spiritual newborn on YouTube or to be a spiritual newborn in an age where you're inundated with so much information can be, it's very helpful and it's very beneficial for an understanding and a knowing that you're not alone, and for a context and for a lot of great places to start. But I think going back to the impressionability and the innocence of the baromeds, we can cling to ideals and to stories and to things that aren't necessarily for us to cling to permanently. I think there are things that we experience in a time that serves to help us grow closer and closer to the divine in our own special, unique way. It gets us closer and closer to the truth of who we are and how we interact with the world and what is for us to do. But I think sometimes there can also be a temptation or a tendency, again, to cling to things just because it was the most resonant at the time, right? Like you're getting into something basically brand new and you're leaving an old life, an old world behind. Something resonates. And because there's at least a partial resonance, we think that it all has to fit, or it's like us to a T. And so we can commit wholesale or commit full in to an ideology or a belief system that's only like it only comprises like 5% of our truth. But again, that 5% is a lot better than the 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0 or 0.5% that we got before. And it makes me think of early 2020 when there were a whole bunch of readers that were quitting tarot and were specifically going back to Yah or Jesus. And it's like, I got into tarot and I was doing rituals and candle magic and herbs and crystals and all of this stuff. And before I knew it, like it was all of this. And it's like, and it feels like, again, it's just like for some people, they got into a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't necessarily for them. Doesn't mean that tarot was or wasn't. Maybe it was just that part of their life. Maybe it was just that phase of their journey. You leave the village and then you come back to Jesus. Which you'll hear about in the church too. I was raised in the church and then I backslid and I went out into the world for 20 years and now I'm back. It's just, again, sometimes it can be a lot, and there's so much ritual or so much, again, it's not even necessarily ritual, but it's like, oh, like, well, if you're into this, then like, does that mean I'm into everything? It's almost like if there's someone who is, I'm imagining, if there's someone who is like gay in the US and they live a life closeted for some time, right? And then they come out and they're like looking at Drag Race and they just like look at popular gay culture. And then they start to like party and maybe they get into drugs and all kinds of other stuff. And like none of that is necessarily who they are, but it's almost like in this case, it's like that's who they thought they had to be because that's what being gay means, right? So instead of like being gay, it's like spiritually, right? It's spiritual to do the candles and the crystals and the rituals and the full moon and all of this and the tarot and the oracle cards and all of that. And so it's almost like there's no vetting process or there's no like almost natural exploration and development. It's like, let's jump right in. And then again, we find what resonates for us. We find what works for us and works with us. And then just like the Hierophant, as we continue our journey, we differentiate or we get more specifically into what works for us. And again, I feel like it's ultimately beneficial because it's better to have those contexts rather than to like emerge and feel completely alone and isolated and have no information at all. But I think Baromet's, it's just like it reaches that point, just like with the Hierophant, where we specialize or we personalize that relationship, rather than continuing to do the thing because that's what it means to be spiritual or because everybody else is doing it. Where did that come from? Oh, because I was saying like because I know that there are many paths and there are many journeys, right? And so if mine doesn't resonate for you, it doesn't have to. Don't force it to fit. But also it was acknowledging how like when you don't know anything or when you don't know better, there's a lot of information. And sometimes the best way to get to know us is to get to know what doesn't work for us. Again, the villain is life, or the villain is that there is no villain because it's just life. And we do our best to move forward or we do our best to not. Like I said, for 24 years, I was very dedicated to my misery. I purposefully made choices and decisions to keep myself miserable and to not expand and experience a lot of stuff. And I don't have to guilt, shame, blame, whatever myself. It's just like I'm in a point in my life now where I want different. And because I want something that's so vastly different than what I wanted in the past, I now want to do things that I didn't want to do, but I have to retrain my brain partially. I got to be mindful of that when it comes to making choices and decisions. And like I said earlier, this post Venus retrograde for me, especially after the anime that I watched last night, was I owe it to myself to pursue all of the things that I want to pursue. Like I saw an ad on Instagram yesterday when I was scrolling that was like, do you want to travel alone, but you don't? It was like, do you want to travel alone, but you don't want to make memories in a place alone? Well, join this basically travel group where you can experience something with other people, where you can make memories with other people, but you don't have to have other people in the beginning of your travels in order to do that. It's like you can have the benefits of going alone on your own time when you have time and when you have the resources. And you can also have the benefit of experiencing it with someone else. I guess that was just kind of yesterday in a few different ways. It was just like, I owe it to myself to make me happy. Or I owe it to myself to allow myself to be happy. You know what I mean? But it also came with acknowledging, like, I know why I made the choices and decisions that I made in the past. And it was important for me to make them at that time. And when I made some adjustments, there were other things that I learned in the interim. I was a growing child, learning the world firsthand. And it's like, now I know different. Now I know better. Now I know different and I know better. Now I know different. Now I know better. I can make different choices and decisions moving forward. And that's what it's about. And I don't have to feel some type of way about me in the past. And I don't have to feel some type of way about people, places, things, situations, jobs in the past to make those different choices and decisions now. Like me wanting different is excuse enough. Nobody has to be the villain or the bad guy in order for me to make those choices. But also at the same time, it's not to ignore the things that I know or the things that I've witnessed, experienced, gone through on either side. So remember how it was yesterday when I was like, or was it earlier? I think it was yesterday when I was like, I'm in this like recontextualizing sort of phase right now. And I think it might have been earlier in this video, or it could have been yesterday's, where I was like, there's a lot that's like almost morally gray because it's people doing their best. You know what I mean? It probably plays on that. And again, I think sometimes in order to make a shift or a transformation, we need for there to be a villain, or we need for there to be a bad guy, or we need for something or someone to be wrong, whether it's a past version of us or someone else. And if it's a past version of us or someone else, it can create a lot of guilt, shame, blame, and things that are ultimately unnecessary. But it's almost like Selena Gomez, like, I needed to lose you to love me. I needed to hate you to like me. I needed to see you this way so that I could feel that way about myself. But it's like, what if we can just feel whatever about ourselves? Helps us extend compassion and understanding, but also in a way where it's like we don't have to subject ourselves to all of that toxic twin flame karmic washing machine. And I say toxic twin flame karmic washing machine, even outside of twin flame relationships. You know what I mean? It's like if we extend forgiveness and compassion to be truly forgiving and compassionate, then we have to allow people back into our lives to continue to mistreat us in the ways that they mistreated us before. And I don't subscribe to that. Forgiveness is something that we do for us moving forward. And it's understanding, right? You want to treat people like garbage, and I don't want to be treated like garbage. So, it's just the facts. Okay. It's not always treating people like garbage. Sometimes it's just incompatibility in whatever way. Again, it doesn't have to be extremized or whatever. And just like that, I'm almost at 4 hours. Might as well go for the full 4, right? Psych! I hope you all have an excellent whenever you see this. I hope that if you aren't, you're having a better one soon. I hope that you are acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. Emphasis on acting, emphasis on alignment, emphasis on what you wish to be a reality. And in the mean and in between time, I hope that your intuition, discernment, guidance, wisdom, spirit crew, spirit team, ancestors, angels, sign symbols, synchronicities are leading you in a way that's, understandable, because that'd be helpful. But also in a way that empowers you to be courageous and brave and to see the unsightly and to do the daring. And I guess I hope that you're worth it to you as well. So, no problem. Nighty night. I guess it's morning for you. Yes. Good morning to you. We talk. I haven't booked my flight yet, but I'm gonna need to be doing that soon because that's literally 3 months. Oh yeah, I may be landing on UK soil 3 months from now. If I do, I got some plans while I'm there. I'm going to create a bridge for this transition because in my Venus retrograde, I was like, I'm ready to move to London. I'm ready to do it. Now that Venus is like direct, I would love to go. I just I don't have the same dogged determination and fire now that I'm not being about it. You know what I mean? But I'm like, yeah, I should. Yeah. Anyway. It'll be really cool. I feel like honestly, one way or another, it'll happen. Honestly, in my heart of hearts and in all that is within me, if it is something that I want, I don't see it not happening. But also, I don't see the things that will happen between now and then. So, but I'll probably find myself pretty darn motivated here within the next few months. So anyway, that unnecessary bit of information aside, that brings me even closer to the 4-hour mark. Man, part of me wants to end this before 4 hours. I know if I pull anything else, I'm going to be on here for 4 hours and 10 minutes. So, I think that's all that I feel needs to be said. And that is all for now that is coming to me to say. I don't know, it's maybe because there was an appropriateness with the Baromets and the Jackalope. There's a time to be serious, which is the bane of the Jackalope, and there's a time to be independent, which is the bane of the Baromets. There are times to be interdependent, and there are times where we have to rely on others. There are definitely times for gentleness, just like there is time for humor and lightheartedness and appreciating the ironies of life. All things in balance, of course. But yeah, I don't know. All right. Bye.